kick the field goal. It'll be Jason Gingell out of the hold of Mesco. Good snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history.
Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman.
Well, a pleasant good morning to you. A beautiful Wednesday morning here in Greater Cincinnati, Ohio. We're in Hamilton, our Chatterbox Sports Studios. And we welcome you, as always, to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 a to noon Eastern Time. Many of you already on by the thousands. On YouTube/Chatterbox Sports, we stream live as well every day. On Facebook, Chatterbox Sports page. And you can find us in podcast form. Just search Off the Bench with Thom Brennaman, and you're dialed in. Look, you got to give the Reds offense some credit. Everybody said they wouldn't score this year, including me. But they continue to battle. Last night, they bang out 8 hits. They draw 5 walks, a couple of guys hit by pitches, to put the pressure on Atlanta. But the Reds couldn't deliver the knockout blow. They had a chance to just kick the door in very early in the game and couldn't do it. They went 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position in a 7-6 loss. Starter Luis Cessa couldn't get through 4 innings and twice gave up leads that the offense gave it. Spencer Steer, he's off to a nice start. Had 3 hits last night, drove in 2. Jose Barrero is starting to show some signs now. A lot of you have been down on him. Starting to show some signs. Hit a big 3-run home run to make it a 1-run game late. But that's where it ended, 1 run short. And the Reds will try and avoid getting swept in the series in Atlanta. Series finale later tonight. Hunter Green will make his 3rd start. He better be better tonight. He better be better tonight. He'll be opposed by Spencer Strider of Atlanta. First pitch, 7:20. Reds are now 3.5 games back of division-leading Milwaukee after the Brewers beat the Western Division-leading Arizona Diamondbacks in Phoenix last night, 7-1. Milwaukee is 8-3 on the year. Ho-hum! Tampa Bay Rays. They win again. They're now 11-0 to start the season. That is 2 games shy of tying the Major League record held by the 82 Braves and the 87 Brewers for most wins to start a season. The Rays beat Boston 7-2 last night. Them giving up 2 runs is a story in and of itself. The Rays had not allowed a run in the last 3 games before last night. All right, elsewhere. Ryan Mountcastle. Are you a big Orioles? Oh, you're a Nats guy, Paul Fritz.
No, but I follow them. When I was, like I said yesterday, when, working in the system, a lot of these guys were guys that were in AA with me when I was broadcasting there a couple of years ago. So I enjoy watching the Orioles games and seeing how these guys are doing that have come up since then. So Mountcastle was not there when I was there, but, he's obviously a big part of this team, and he had 9 RBIs last night. 9. That ties a Major League record. Baltimore beat Oakland 12-8. By the way, Paulie, Casey, good morning, men. How are we looking?
We're looking really good, Tom.
Look at Paul breaking out the polo today.
Yeah. No, he's big leaguing it.
Did you pay for that shirt?
I did not.
Tell the truth.
I did not.
Honest man, I love it.
I did not.
Freebie?
Christmas present.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
All
a freebie.
Right. Very nice. And
I don't.
That's a big league Chatterbox sweatshirt you're sporting there. Hoodie.
Yeah.
Still a little chilly in the mornings.
Yeah, I got my sweats on though. I feel totally outclassed by Big League Paul here.
Yeah.
Big League Paul. That is his new nickname in the chat.
I need to break out. I don't know if anyone else does this. I need to break out all my summer stuff. I have yet to do that.
Yeah,
So I did that. That's kind of why I'm wearing this and the shorts. I made that transition the other day. I committed to it.
I gotta get in there and do that.
No freebies, Tom. I don't take handouts.
I do. The old adage that I learned from my dad, who will be coming up here shortly. If it's free, it's for me, and I'll have 3.
True.
Right?
Right.
Why not? Is that a free sweatshirt, Chatterbox?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess it is.
Okay. All right. Luis Arias became the first Marlins player ever to hit for the cycle. That franchise started, what was that, in 1993, I believe it was.
93 or 94, yeah. 93.
Yeah, I think. He went 4 for 5 in an 8-4 win over Philadelphia. NBA playoffs kicked off last night. 7 versus 8 play-in games. Out west, boys, and we're going to talk about the Western Conference matchups. Watch out for the Lakers. Watch out. They remade that roster. We'll talk about this later. They needed overtime to hold off Minnesota last night, 108-102. LeBron, 38 years old. And this guy, he's only played in 54 games, but he has had an incredible year. I mean, he never slows. He never has a bad night. 30 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. The Lakers will square off with the number 2 seed Memphis Grizzlies in the opening round. In the East, Atlanta rolls all over Miami. Paul, I think you were 2 for 2 last night.
No, I was 1 for 2.
Oh,
I had Miami. Well, actually on this show, I did. I think I picked so
you're covering your tail.
I don't remember
between this show and not 2
No, I don't remember.
That's what you're doing
right.
here.
I don't remember. No, because I picked Atlanta. I picked both the favorites to win, but I picked one of the underdogs to cover. And
you picked the Timberwolves to cover. So that's why I say I think you were 2-0.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you were.
I think you were 2-0.
No.
Trae Young, good player.
Yeah.
Good player.
Yeah.
He nearly had a triple-double. 25 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. The Hawks will face the 2 seed Boston Celtics in the opening round. Now, tonight there are 2 more play-in games, and we talked about it yesterday. You have the Bulls in Toronto, Oklahoma City, and New Orleans. The winner of those games, of the games tonight, will play the losers of last night's game to determine the final playoff spot in each conference. So coming up here momentarily, it'll be Marty Brennaman, the Hall of Famer, talk more about the Reds. Paul Dougherty promises to be ready to roll today. He's starting to fall into that Zim Hude trap. Am I right or wrong?
I don't think you're wrong. So you must be right.
If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. One of the great tunes of all times, going way, way back. You guys, I mean, that was 30 years before either one of you were born.
Yeah.
Great tune.
That Lakers game last night, I mean, we can talk about it more because Marty's in here right now. Talk about it more after, but that Lakers game was disgusting last night. We'll get into it later.
Look, Marty Brennaman has seen some of the all-time great basketball players. Dad, good morning. Nice to have you.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Casey.
Hello, Marty.
Hello, Marty.
You have seen some of the all-time greats all the years you were broadcasting in the ABA and the likes of Julius Erving and George Gervin and Dan Issel and on and on and on and on. LeBron James, look, people can disagree with his politics and whatever it might be, okay? But this guy, I know it's easy to say, and I know you're going to say it, that Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time. He has 6 rings. But LeBron James seems like, Dad, this guy never has a bad night. I mean, for 15 years.
I don't disagree with that at all. And to be honest with you, more and more, I'm willing to open up my mind to the discussion concerning who's the greatest pro player of all time. I never said Michael Jordan was the greatest player of all time. I say he's the greatest player in NBA history because he sure as heck wasn't the greatest player in college basketball. That's because Dean was the best defender of anybody Michael ever faced and holding him under 30 points. I'm more readily willing to open up my mind now to the discussion of which one is the greatest player in the NBA history. The guy just keeps on doing it game after game after game. And big games, he's a big player, but so was Michael. And And you can argue any way you want to, and you can make an argument for both players. You can say, well, Jordan made more all NBA defensive teams than LeBron has made, and so that alone makes him a better all-around player than LeBron James. The argument goes on and on and on, and I don't know where it will ever end. It will never end. Here we are talking about Michael Jordan. He's been gone for God knows how long, and you can apply that same situation to the day that LeBron James retires from the game. The conversation will go on ad nauseum.
I mean, the guy is just amazing to watch. If this was the first time he'd really been nicked up and missed a lot of games over the course of the year, but golly day, he physically he's just amazing to watch. And so the NBA playoffs, are you going to watch much of the NBA playoffs or no?
I could care less about the NBA playoffs. I could absolutely care less about it. I have not been a big fan of professional basketball for a long time. I enjoy watching Steph Curry play. When Golden State is on, I might check in periodically to see how he's doing. I think he's the greatest shooter in the history of the game. But I don't really pay a whole lot of attention. If I do, it'll be the final series, because I think that's when they really bust their ass for the entire time they're in the game to play. There's a lot of laying back and pacing themselves in that game. And I think it's more evident in basketball than it is in any other sport. But I will probably pay attention to the finals. But the beginning of it, I could care less.
Okay. All right, let's shift gears to the Redlegs.
That's a good idea.
They have won one game on this road trip. And look, they knew they were going to have their hands full. Philadelphia is not anywhere close to being at full strength with Harper out. Hoskins is out for the year. Their bullpen's a disaster, almost as bad as a Reds bullpen to start the year anyway. But they lose 2 out of 3 there. They go to Atlanta. They've been right there.
Yeah.
Can you take something positive away from the fact that, offensively speaking, this team is competing? And I'll be the first to say, and I know it's a small sample size, it's 10 games, whatever it is, but I did not think that they would be scoring and hitting the way they have hit so far this year. But can you take solace out of the fact that they're at least competing?
Well, I think scoring is a stretch. They've scored 20 runs in 5 games on this road trip, and 11 of those 20 runs have come from the 7th inning on. I think this is a fun team to watch. That is the lineup that they put on the field on a nightly basis. I enjoy watching these kids play because they really play hard, but their deficiencies are so glaring that they can take optimism or exude optimism. And I noted the comments that were in the Cincinnati Enquirer this morning about, even though they've lost 4 or 5 on the road trip, they can take something from the fact that they battle their butts off, and they've been in games right up until almost the end, with one exception. And that's all well and good, but the bottom line is wins and losses.
Yeah. And
unless they figure out a way to improve that bullpen, and I don't know that there is a way, unless Lucas Sims comes back and pitches sensationally, and sometime down the road they're going to get Luke Weaver back soon. It'll be interesting to see I got a feeling that Weaver may go into the rotation and Luis Cessa will go to the bullpen. That's what I'm thinking. They're hurting. I mean, they've been in games, but they've lost. Like night before last, they get the lead in the 10th inning, and then bingo, first pitch home run by Sean Murphy in the bottom of the 10th, and the Braves win by 1. And then last night, that's got to wear on a team, even though they've only played 10 games. And I know it wore on the team last year. The other part that I predicted this was going to happen, and again, it's a sample size. Connor Overton and Luis Cessa have not gotten the job done in the 4 and 5 spot. And what compounds that problem, I got news for you. Hunter Green has been nothing to write home about.
No doubt about it. I said that a little while ago. He's made 2 starts, and they are below average starts.
Unbelievable. And when you got to go get a guy after 4 1/3 innings in which he's thrown 93 pitches, he's not helping your club. And I don't give a damn how hard he throws. I'm sick to death about hearing guys that throw 100 miles an hour. There's 3,000 pitchers in the big leagues that throw 100 or close to it. So that's no big deal, I don't think. Give me the guy that throws it, that's successful throwing 92 and 93 and moves the ball around and changes speeds and knows how to get big league hitters out. They're the guys that are impressive in this era of Major League Baseball. But getting back to Hunter Green, he's got to start living up to his hype. And if he doesn't, then that means you got to rely solely on Nick Lodolo and Graham Ashcraft, who both have been outstanding. I mean, you can't ask for any more from those two guys. But if you believe that the game is about pitching and you start with pitching and go from there, then they better figure out a way to improve things, or we're going to see a whole lot more of what we've already seen.
Here's a thing that I've never understood, and maybe you have an understanding of it, okay? We all agree Derek Johnson is an outstanding pitching coach, both from the mechanics of it to the mental part of it to preparation, all that kind of thing. Strategically, how to attack a lineup, individual hitters, blah, blah, blah. But the thing I've just never understood is, and this is about Hunter Green, we know he throws a fastball. We know he throws a slider. But all the talk in spring training and even going back to last year was him starting to throw his changeup more. I could be imprecise on this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. His first start of the year on opening day, he did not throw one changeup. In his second start of the year, he threw exactly one changeup. So I just have a hard time understanding what happens, because you know that Derek Johnson is saying to him when they're meeting, hey, man, you got to start throwing that changeup. That could be a good pitch for you, an important pitch for you. But then you never use it.
Well, I think he may not use it because he may not have confidence in it enough to throw. And that's a personal thing that obviously if what we're talking about is accurate, and I think it is, because we did hear a lot about a changeup. And I think back to a chance meeting in New York back in the 80s between Joe Nuxhall and Nolan Ryan. And Ryan asked Joe about Mario Soto's changeup, the circle change, and how he threw it. We're having breakfast with Ryan in the Hilton Hotel coffee shop in New York City, and they're playing the Yankees and the Reds are playing the Mets. And Joe showed him how to throw that pitch. And he went home and he perfected it. And they tell me that the circle change is the easiest changeup there is to throw. And throw well once you work on it long enough, and it doesn't take all that long. Once he added that pitch to his arsenal, all of a sudden things change. And I think you can apply the same thing to Hunter Green. We know how hard he throws. We know he's got a good slider. Let him add to that and use it. Obviously, we have to think he's added to the fastball and the slider now, but if he's not using it, he might as well not even have it. I think that certainly time is going to come when they've got to sit down with him and say, son, you've got to throw this pitch. Otherwise, you're going to struggle like the Dickens. I still wonder whether or not it's not in his mind, meaning Green's mind. I still want to strike out everybody because I know that everybody's looking for me to throw 103 miles an hour. And I want to impress people by striking out people. Well, we know the old adage in baseball. It takes a minimum of 3 to get a strikeout. It takes 1 pitch to make a pitch and get a guy on the first or second pitch to hit a ground ball on the infield or pop it up and hit a routine fly ball to left. I don't know whether this is a problem for him to get over the strikeout thing. But the fact of the matter is something has to change. And again, you do it and I do it, and we're both right. It's a small sample size. So we're not going off the deep end. All we know is that among the big three, he has been so-called the weak link. And that has to change in order for this. But still, if that changes, then the big three are intact. That doesn't answer rotation pitchers 4 and 5.
We were talking about this topic yesterday. And by the way, Hunter Green will get his third start of the year tonight in Atlanta.
Right.
look, they weren't going to spend any money. They made that very, very clear, they being ownership in the Reds. They've patched together with, 30-something-year-old guys, journeyman guys that are down there in that bullpen, and that's a decision they made, and okay. So here we are 10 games into the year. You start getting into the conversation about, okay, when do you start that clock, all those sorts of things with young pitchers. I just wonder, do you think they would you consider, more accurately, bringing up young guys from the minor leagues? I mean, they can get lit up just as easily as old guys, and there's a good chance that they might be a little bit better because their stuff is a little bit better.
Yeah, I think it's too early to do that. And the other part of that is, and this is not anything that I preach. I think that oftentimes this is a fallback by Major League Baseball front offices when the subject of a young, promising pitcher comes up who's in your system and somebody says, well, why don't you give him a shot? Oh, we can't do that because if we bring him up now and he gets beat up, it may affect him for all time. That's the biggest bunch of crap I've ever heard.
Yep.
If you got a kid that has a big reputation and he has pitched reasonably well in your system, if you bring him up and he gets lit up in 2 or 3 starts, I can't believe for 1 second that it's going to mess his career up for all time. He goes back to the minor leagues. He's better equipped to know what he needs to improve upon to get back to the big leagues and be successful. So anytime I hear a general manager or somebody on the club, we don't want to do anything, his psyche, we can't afford him come up when we're not sure that he's ready yet. I don't think I think you're pushing the panic button too early by bringing kids up. I think you owe the guys that you have right now, for better or for worse, a reasonable opportunity to go out and I'm talking now about I don't think you're going to send the green down. If that comes about, then they're really hurt.
Yeah.
But guys like including Green and Overton and Sessa, whoever it might be, you got to give them an ample opportunity to go out and show that what has happened so far was simply a bad start. And maybe that's exactly what it is. And they get their act together and they go out and they pitch well. I don't think you can pull the trigger yet because you're really pushing the panic button if you just start to talk now about bringing kids up out of your system and give them a chance to pitch in the big leagues right now.
All right, well, let me ask you this. Let's apply the same thing to position players, okay?
Okay.
Steer has looked solid. Friedel is
He
off
really
to a
is.
good start, okay?
Who?
But 2 guys, Friedel. Friedel's off to an excellent start.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You got 2 guys, though, that are young players. A lot of people, let's start with Barrero. Okay, now everybody said good glove, can't hit. Okay, well, they might be right, but it wasn't a lot of time last year. His first taste of the big leagues, young guy, talented guy. He's not off to a great start, but he's had his moments, including a 3-run home run in the game last night. You got Joey Votto singing the praises of Matt McClain, shortstop down at AAA Louisville, right? How long do you go with Barrero to give him a chance? Because a lot of people say until you give a guy, 900, 1,000 at-bats in the big leagues, now you can maybe start to make some decisions on where you think he is as an offensive player. Barrero's nowhere close to that number.
Well, you have to realize we're talking about a ball club that hung on to a guy for upwards of 3 years who had 1 good month in the big leagues, and that's Aristides Aquino. I've never seen a player get more out of next to nothing than 1 incredible month in which he hit, 12 home runs, 13, whatever it was, and they hung on and hung on and hung on. Now, maybe they out of necessity because they didn't have anybody else that they could bring up there, but we saw Matt McClain in spring training. He was a kid that hit the home run in the first game of the spring to win a game and was impressive throughout the spring. And he's a high draft pick. I don't know. I don't know how long you hang on to a guy like Barrero. He's only hitting now about 220 or 225, something like that, I think. And so I think they're going to continue to look at him because that's their mode of operation. We're going to look at him and look at him and look at him until he passes out from exhaustion. or ineptitude, or all of a sudden he breaks out of it and becomes a player that you think he should be performing the level he should be performing at. But I don't think they have any thought of all right now of doing anything with Barrero. For my money, Kevin Newman played pretty well when he had the chance to play. I don't know. You know, they are a very patient team. Whether or not the patience evolves out of necessity or it's just the way they're going to operate. I would have gotten rid of Aristides Aquino a year and a half ago, and the sweetest kid that ever lived. But at the same time, if you're not carrying your weight for a club that barely needs some production, then you have to look elsewhere, and they finally did that. But how long they'll hang on to Barrero is anybody's guess.
Well, the other guy that, you know, look, and I said this on the show, and it's not disparaging the kid in any form or fashion. I don't know him, and by all accounts, they say he is an incredible kid, great kid. Talking about Benson, okay? Now, I also know that the Cleveland Guardians are very tight with spending money, and they are not in the business on a regular basis of trading away first-round draft picks, especially a guy gifted with the straight physical ability that Benson has. Big, strong, good-looking athlete, can run, defend, blah, blah, blah. So I wasn't buying it when all of a sudden everybody's writing ad nauseum about how great he looks in spring training. But again, you know, you do have to give the kid a chance, but my Lord, I mean, he's striking out virtually every single at-bat so far.
Yeah, he looks completely overmatched. You know, opening day struck out 4 times. I wonder. You mentioned earlier about the pitching and or players and how they sign guys to minor league contracts with an opportunity to make the big league ball club. Most of those guys don't pan out because they've been to 2, 3, or 4 different organizations. They're 26, 27, 28 years old, and they haven't made it in the big leagues. Well, there's a reason why they haven't made it in the big leagues, because they're not good enough to play at the highest level of baseball that there is. I guess the Reds do it out of necessity because they can't spend the money that it would require them to do if they went out and got established players, whether it be position players or pitchers. But we've seen precious little from Will Benson to make us think that this guy is going to be a productive major league player. But again, they're going to give him a long look. And you have to never forget, Tom, the other part of it is, and I know you know this, when they cast they, meaning the baseball powers that be with this club or any other club, decide to sign a player or decide to go out and get a guy, which they did in the trade for Will Benson from Cleveland, they're not going to pull the plug on him quick, because that then reflects upon you and your ability to determine whether a guy can play or not. So you're going to bend over backwards to give that player or players enough time to say, yes, he can, or no, he can't. But if you do it quick, and you do it quick enough times, then the people that sign your paycheck are going to say, well, wait a minute now. You don't have a very good track record of bringing players into this organization who you think can play, and in reality they can't. So it must start with you. So I think a lot of times this patience evolves out of the fact that we can't reflect upon ourselves. We've got to give this guy every chance and hope like hell that he can be the player we thought he was going to be when we made the deal for him.
All right, well, David Bell continues to say after the game, and he did again last night, that he's very encouraged about the way the team is playing and fighting and continuing to compete. So we'll see how it plays out. Final game in Atlanta, then right back on the home front. You're down there in North Carolina, your palatial estate, and you stopped in Chapel Hill yesterday. Did you rub elbows with Roy Williams or any advice for Hubert Davis? Caleb Love, did you catch him packing his bags and heading to Michigan, anything like that?
No, I did not. We just parked the car off of Franklin Street and went around the corner and had lunch at Sutton's Drug Store, which is one of the iconic places in downtown Chapel Hill. Been there as long as I've been around. Was there when I went to school there, and just browsed and went into some stores and then jumped in the car and drove the hour and 40 minutes to get to Salisbury again. But it's like Ann and I talked yesterday. It's the epitome of what a college town should be like. And I speak with great prejudice because it's a wonderful campus, and there's so many places that are still there when I went to school there, and we're talking about back in the early 60s. But I didn't see Roy or I didn't see Hubert. Didn't comment about Caleb Love going to Michigan. They already say he's going to be the best guard in the Big Ten. It was just a nice visit to Chapel Hill, and it's something that we will probably do more and more of. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful place, but it ain't the Ohio University. I can tell you that right now.
Oh,
In terms
please,
of sheer
please.
beauty, brother. All the rolling hills, Hocking Hills. I mean, the best. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your time in North Carolina. We will see you at La Crosse Monday night. Safe travels back.
I look forward to it. Look forward to it, boys. Have a good week.
See you, Marty.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you,
All
Marty.
right, boys.
Thank you, Marty.
Take care.
Thank you, Marty. That's a
All right,
compliment.
guys.
Thank you,
Take
Marty.
care.
All right.
See ya.
All right. I'll talk to you. Have a good day. Thanks for the time.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So you got it right there. Broke it all down. And we're going to talk more about the Reds a little bit later on. But we thank my dad for his time. We got Paul Dougherty coming up in about 10 minutes. So, Ham and Eggers, Mr. President, popularity growing by the day. Take it away.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
All right. Here we go. The Bengals report. We haven't talked about the Bengals yet. I'm sure we'll make it there eventually on this show.
I think we're going to do a small little – we're not doing something big. We're going to try our best to not go all Bengals
stick
today.
to baseball.
Yeah.
The Bengals report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and
productivity.
That's right, Casey. Visit Encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. There is also a new premium alkaline water out, Pawnee, and I have to tell you, this stuff tastes great. Made in Hamilton, Ohio, Pawnee uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that many other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water that is also, quote, the best tasting water in the world. Oh, he got me. I tried to speed you up, and he still got me. Don't choke, Casey. We need you.
Yeah, we're good.
Your eyes are watering.
That's really good water.
Your eyes are watering. Maybe wash it down with some Pawnee water. It is the best tasting water in the world. It's a healthy alkaline water. You can visit their website at pawneewater.com, P-A-H-H-N-I water.com, P-A-H-H-N-I water.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water.
It is really good water.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. It's really good water.
You look like you took a jump off the high dive and some water got up your nose. You're trying to get out of the pool. You're there with your friends. You're acting like, we're okay. Nothing's wrong. But really on the inside, your nose is just tingling.
It's great water. It's that alkaline energy type deal here. I'm energized. I'm feeling good. Had a whole bottle of Pawnee water in, 30 seconds?
Quicker than that. Paul Dougherty coming up here in just a minute. We just finished up with Marty. We are going to talk NBA postseason a little bit after Doc. We are going to talk a lot more about the Reds. I'm sure Tom and Paul will get into that about the Reds here in just a minute. And then we'll have the rest of the show here coming up in just a second. Everything looking good. We have Doc. He is in here and ready to go. Tom?
Well, he must have set some kind of alarm. After yesterday's debacle from Doc. You say he's there?
He's here.
All right. All right, we will get to him in just a second. Lots of comments in the chat. Brian wondering if Doc set his alarm.
I think he's set.
He's all set?
I think he set his alarm today. Looks like we're good.
Okay. All right, let's get to Doc. Doc, good morning. I'm surprised with the weather being what it is. Is he there?
He's here.
He's here.
All right. I'm surprised with the weather being what it is that you are not up and at 'em out at the golf course right now and cleaning up carts, getting guys out there ready to roll.
12:30. My shift.
You go 12:30 to what? Sundown? Make sure they're all cleaned up and ready to go for the next morning?
Nah, usually only till about 4 o'clock. Shifts are 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, and
I'm
really
an
a
old
guy
man.
your
I
age
can't
should
be
not be
watching
working
cart
much
for
longer
8
than that.
hours. What?
A guy your age should not be working any longer than
That's
4,
right.
4.5. You start drifting off, little snooze up against a tree somewhere behind the golf shed or something like that.
Correct.
Correct. Good. Hey, your thoughts, and I know we're 3 days removed from this, but we didn't have you on yesterday. When all was said and done, what did you think about the Masters?
Sort of a mixed bag. The weather kind of messed with it in a major way. I think the Masters, more than any other golf tournament, because they play at the same place every year, there's sort of a rhythm and flow to that tournament that you don't see elsewhere. Guys come to expect certain things done certain ways, and when the weather messes with it like it did this time with the delays and the brutal cold for Saturday, I think it kind of screwed things up. I think some of the live stuff messed with it a little bit. I'm not a big believer in this big feud between the PGA Tour and the Live Tour. I really don't care. Some people do. I mean, some people rooted against Phil Mickelson because he's on the Live Tour. I just want to see great golf. I want to see the best players in the world play what I consider to be the best golf course in the world. And I don't care if they're Live, if they're PGA Tour guys, or if they're the cart barn cleaning, washing cart tour that I'm on, right? So that didn't really play into it. And Sunday was, I don't know, you got 9 hours of golf. You love golf. You got to watch 9 hours of it. It wasn't especially compelling. There was no back nine magic. John Rahm was kind of steady as she goes, and Koepka slipped up just enough not to be able to win. So I thought it was okay by Masters standards. Usually it's great. I thought it was okay.
Are you one of those guys who believes, and there was a lot of talk about this on different talk shows around and about as I'm in my car and I'll flip on something, local show, national show, whatever it might be. Tiger Woods, it was hard to watch. Even if you're not a Tiger Woods fan, you have to have some sympathy and empathy for the guy and compassion. I mean, his leg, they say that, it was nearly amputated after that car crash. And it's painful to watch him in such incredible pain, trying to get around out there. But we had Steve Flesh on last week, who plays on the senior tour. And, of course, in the senior tour, you have the option of riding in a cart. Are you of the belief that in the not-too-distant future, when Tiger Woods can go play on the senior tour, that he's going to dominate that tour?
No. No, I don't think so. I don't think his body will hold up. I mean, the Masters is a different animal because sometimes the weather is awful, like it was Saturday. There's a lot of hills at Augusta that maybe you don't have in other places. But no, then there are a lot of pretty good players still play on the senior tour. I don't even know that he's going to be interested in it enough that he wants to give to it full time, even if he's physically allowed. Let me run something else by you though that has occurred to me. Why is it totally out of line? Is it crazy to suggest that maybe, given who he is and what he's meant to golf and what he could still mean to golf, is it totally out of line to suggest that Tiger Woods be allowed to ride a cart in PGA events?
Well, see, I asked Steve Flesh that very same question. So you and I are on the same page on this deal. He says that it's his understanding that due to the Disabilities Act in the United States of America, right? and all, governing bodies or employers, whatever it might be, even though, the PGA doesn't employ Tiger Woods, but the Disabilities Act, that he believes that Woods could apply under such the law and perhaps have that granted to him. And I think it would be a good thing. Now, there are other guys out there where, they may not be Tiger Woods, but there are some guys that have been great players that maybe they could make the same sort of, petition. But I'm with you all the way. I wouldn't have a problem with Tiger. And I don't think most players on the tour, privately they might say something, but publicly nobody's going to say it about Tiger Woods, right?
Yeah, and I understand it'd be a definite can of worms kind of thing. And I remember the controversy way back with Casey Martin and how disappointed I was in Nicholas and Arnold Palmer for voicing their vehement opposition to having someone ride a cart, that walking is essential to golf. And to a certain extent it is. But you're dealing with a different animal, as we say. The Tiger is Tiger. He can still play good golf. He can still make all the shots. He just can't. He doesn't hold up. He looked like 90 years old on the weekend, and then he withdrew. So yeah, I think it's a subject worth discussing and hearing what players and officials within the game and the PGA Tour think of that.
I asked Steve Flesh a question the other day, and I know you said you don't get all worked up about it, but there are a lot of people that clearly do, the whole Live PGA thing. And I did not realize until we had Steve on the show last week that the problem a lot of the players have with Live is that the Live Tour, and there are other tours besides the PGA Tour, we know that, but all of them by and large have agreed so that their players can get points for the standings, to be able to play in the Ryder Cup and all these kinds of things, having a play-in date before whatever tournament starts on your particular tour, that Liv said no to all of those things. That if Liv had just gone along with a program in one or two of those asks, if you will, from the PGA Tour, that nobody would have a problem with Liv. But I find it incredibly hypocritical, extraordinarily hypocritical, when I start hearing guys talk about dirty money, because I think it was 19 of the 30 largest sponsors of the PGA Tour do business in Saudi Arabia, where all the Live money's coming from, do business in communist China. Okay, dirty money there, no doubt about it. And the Women's LPGA Tour, the single biggest sponsor of that tour, is a Saudi company. I just find it unbelievably hypocritical, and I'm tired of hearing McElroy talk about it.
Well, yeah, and I tend to agree with you on that. The only thing, as I said before, Tom, life is too short. Sports are too much fun, and the older I get, the more I believe this. To get wrapped up in stuff like this, the politics of sport, don't do much for me anymore. I'm tired of screaming. I just want to enjoy what I'm watching. Maybe that's a cop-out. I don't care anymore. Like I said with the Masters, to me, the Masters had a job to do, and that's to assemble the best field it can within the guidelines for qualifying for that event, and that's exactly what they did. And it would have been a lesser event without Phil Mickelson, obviously, without Brooks Koepka, without Patrick Reed, all of whom I believe finished top 10. And that's what I care about. Yeah. If they want to, rich people fighting about money amuses me. The old John Lennon, let them rattle their jewelry. And that's how I feel about it. So try just once these days. I know it's a tough ask, but just try to take the sideshows out, take the politics out, and let's just watch great athletes in great venues doing great things.
All right, speaking of great athletes, I don't know how much you're paying attention to this, but you followed all sports and covered all sports, not as much because we don't have a franchise here in Cincinnati, an NBA franchise. But, man, you watch LeBron James play. And this guy last night, he goes for nearly a triple-double. He's 38 years old. You were the first one to point this out on how just some guys never seem to have an off night. I tell you, the older I get, I'm not so sure there's been a guy besides Tom Brady that I just marvel at as the years go by more and more than LeBron James. You agree with that?
I do, and for the biggest reason being the NBA is a global game. It's one thing for Tom Brady to dominate the NFL, where 99.9% of the participants come from this country. You know, we're dealing with guys from all over the world playing at the highest level in the NBA, and he's still at age 38. And obviously we tend to forget that he didn't play in college. You know, he came straight out of high school, and he's been in the league for more than 20 years. And he's still impactful. He's not as great as he once was. I mean, nobody expects him to be, but he still, like you said, has impacts on games. And I can't disagree with anything you say about LeBron James. I still like Jordan better because Jordan had that certain killer something that I've never seen another athlete have. But I agree totally with what you're saying.
Who's the closest killer athlete kind of thing, if you took Jordan out, that you've ever been around? Biggest killer, just stone cold killer as a player. Anybody come to mind?
Around here, maybe Kenyon Martin.
Yep.
You know, Kenyon was all business most of the time, but especially when he was on the court. Probably Kenyon Martin. Certainly maybe the most intimidating athlete I've seen around here.
All right, last thing I want to ask you about the Reds. You tend to listen to the games on radio more than watch on television. You've been writing about that for years, and you continue to do so at The Benjamin and on themorningline.substack.com. Your thoughts on the Redlegs here? They're losing tight games. They're competing better, I think, than a lot of us thought they might.
Invest a little more thoughtfully and heavily in the bullpen. I mean, it's not news that the Reds don't have a good bullpen, and it should be news, because if you have a bad bullpen one year, try to fix it the next. And I understand that they've got some guys that are going to be coming back that should help them. Santillan, Sims, not Antone, unfortunately, but maybe they'll get a little better. But I wrote this the other day, Tom. You look at some of the best bullpens in the game, and they do it on a shoestring budget. You don't need lots of money to have a good bullpen. You know, there are a few teams that pay closers lots of money, but the guys pitching the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings, they're making, couple million, if that. Some of the best bullpens are anchored by kids, rookies, making the minimum. What that means is that their personnel people have done their homework and are able to find these sort of diamonds in the rough. So I think it's encouraging that the Reds are playing with a bit of an attitude. I think it's encouraging that some of these guys are hitting. I don't know how long that's going to last.
Yep.
If you go by their baseball cards, you're not going to see Fraley and Friedel and Steer and Vossler continue to bat 300 plus or have a couple of home runs a week or drive in 5 or 6 a week. I don't think that's going to continue, but it's nice to see that they're playing okay now. Well, what's not nice to me, and I wrote about this this morning, teams that praise themselves or talk about how hard they play,
yes,
generally aren't very good. You don't want to hear your team saying, well, we tried hard, because that's sort of a knothole, little Billy, at the whippy dip after the game kind of deal. I tend to think that trying hard is implied in the contract. You sign a major league contract, regardless of the sport, that effort is kind of implied. Well, what you get for all that money is not trying hard; it's results. Teams that say that they try hard aren't usually very good. And I'd like the Reds to say eventually, we're trying hard, but that's not good enough. We have to put that effort into winning, because winning at this level is all that matters.
Well, I think that is one of the criticisms, and one of the reasons that some of the fans have issues with David Bell. I really do. I mean, look, every manager, and especially when you're working with what he's got down there in the bullpen, I mean, I feel for the guy. I mean, his options are what they are, and half the guys down there can't get me out. But, and God bless him for trying. But, I mean, golly, play this bite, please, real quick, Doc, if you can stay with us. This was after last night's game, David Bell's comments. Let her rip.
Close games.
Yeah, we just got to keep playing like that. And, sometimes it's tougher when you fight back and you come up short. But, the season's young, but we've shown so far that we'll continue to do that. And I have a ton of confidence in each guy that they'll continue to do that. That's what you have to do. That's the way this game is. And that's how you get rewarded for it. So, I mean, it's encouraging, because that if you keep playing well and keep playing like we are and keep coming back and playing 9 innings, that will happen. So we'll just have to keep going.
Now, look, you and I both know where he's coming from, and Reds fans are smart baseball fans. They know where he's coming from. But you could almost put that on a reel nightly for 3 years. Boy, I really believe in these guys. They're out there fighting and competing and trying really hard. I think Bell would get some people more on his side. Not that there's a huge landslide that's against him in any form or fashion, because everybody realizes what he's working with, and it's unfair to evaluate him. You pointed out this before. But I think one time, somebody would like to hear him say what you just said. Hey, we're fighting our ass off here every single night, but sooner or later, you got to win a game, right?
I think so, if only because that would be such a drastic change in tone that it might wake some guys up. I mean, if there are guys that need waking up at this juncture, I'm not sure there are, but I understand what you're saying. He's just riding what he's got. He knows that the best thing that he has going for him with this team is its attitude. It doesn't have enough of anything else to compete against good teams. What they have is a willingness every day to go out and play hard, and he knows he can count on that. And that's really about the only thing he can count on. But sure, a change of tone, and who knows what he says behind closed doors. Right. I have no idea. I can all but assume that he isn't that much different behind closed doors, because that's his personality. That's who David is, and whether you like that or not, that's a fact. But sure, occasionally maybe throw a chair or dent a locker or raise hell. It might make a dent, because it would not be the status quo. I used to kind of liken it to when my dad would yell at me when I was a kid. He didn't often do it. So when he did it, I stood up and paid attention. Hey, this is serious. He's really pissed off this time. That certainly couldn't hurt. But again, you got to have players. I've said this forever. Right. Dave Shula was never going to be a great NFL head coach. He was just thrust into it way too young and didn't have the experience or the temperament. But he might have won a few more games if the Bengals hadn't been terrible, if they didn't give him terrible players. And you could say the same for Dick LeBeau. And I think David Bell's under the same sort of anchor. He hasn't had good players. And the fear for me is, because I like David, that when they get better, if and when they get better, or at least decent, he's not going to be the guy managing the team. They'll go out and try to find somebody who's, proven winner or whatever. And David will have put in all these years of trying to groom these guys and not be able to reap any of the benefits of it.
Yep, I hear you. All right, Doc, we appreciate your time. Now, you're still doing the morning line at Substack.com, but
Correct.
You're also now look, you're making the Benjamins and you're writing for the Benjamins. What is the website for the Benjamin?
BetTheBenjamin.com.
BetTheBenjamin, all one word, .com.
Yeah, I'm there. Keith Jenkins, who's another Empire alumnus, covered UC, is there. Folks may not know Jackie Rowe and Betsy Ross, but they are public relations marketing wizards, and they're running the show. It's a really good site. I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it. It's a really good site, and it's just getting started, and we've got a lot of enthusiastic young people. Me, I'm just enthusiastic, but I would urge people to check it out. BetTheBenjamin.com.
I will. Jackie Rowe, one of my all-time favorite people. She just gave $2, $3, $4 million to her alma mater, my alma mater, the Ohio University for women's athletics. So I'm all on board with Jackie Rowe.
Good for you. There you go.
Indeed.
Go to the site.
Absolutely.
Tell everybody you know and everybody you don't.
We will. BetTheBenjamin.com. We invite you to check it out and read all the Doc stuff and everything else they got going on there. Well, thanks for being with us today, my friend. Good look out on the golf course. Break out the shorts, a T-shirt, and you're dialed in.
All right, Tom. Thank you.
All right, man. Paul Dougherty, kind enough to join us. When you get to be a little bit older, it's interesting that he's out there doing that and cleaning golf carts. There has to be some peace to doing something like that. I had an uncle who's just legendary in the state of Virginia. Legendary. High school basketball and baseball coach. He's in the Virginia Hall of Fame as both a high school basketball and high school baseball coach in Virginia. He no longer coaches. He's retired. But since retirement, and maybe some of you have done this, he goes out and he's a starter on the local public golf course. I got to believe, I found myself flirting with that idea from time to time. Or going out and working on the grounds crew at some golf course.
Sure.
Sunshine, right? A little exercise, a little peace. After spending a couple hours with you guys every day, I need peace.
Well, I don't blame you. You say you go home and run or you take a swim.
Yeah.
You got to get your mind.
Not swimming any. I don't pay the fees to the health club that has an indoor swimming pool, so I have to wait for that for the summer. But yeah. Get out and run a little bit, but working on the. You were getting ready to say something, Casey?
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I don't blame you if you got to put up with us for 2 hours.
Well, it's challenging. You need a little peace, need a little quiet, and I like what Doc's doing out there. I think it's a good idea.
Just to clean up what Doc was saying, it's bettheben.com, not.
Are you kidding me? He doesn't even have the website correct.
Not bet. Well, I just typed in betthebenjamin.com to make sure we were pubbing it, and it's bettheben.com, not the full Benjamin. So I put it in the chat if anybody wants to read it.
And he still does stuff on his Substack. I'm pretty
Yes,
sure,
he does.
Because I still read his stuff from time to time. I get the notifications on my emails. And
bettheben.com is what he's on if anybody wants to read it.
Everett says golf courses need more starters in and around town. So they got rid of a lot of those guys, went by the wayside during and after COVID. So very few courses have them because they can't find people to work them. So you guys might pick up a few bucks, get out and get a little sunshine, a little exercise in the afternoon.
I do need to get a little sunshine.
Well, you do.
No, I'm pasty. A little pasty.
Played my first round of golf yesterday.
You did?
Yeah.
Where'd you play?
Played at Glenview.
Yes, nice place.
Great spot.
Yep.
Got eaten alive. I did not play well.
I mean, but are you a decent golfer, or how would you characterize your game?
I'm decent. Like I pretty consistently shoot like somewhere between 83 and 87.
Oh, that's solid.
Yeah.
That's very solid.
I'm not like
BLP
5 handicap.
BLP.
I gotta get back there though. I only played 9. I shot a 49. That's not good.
Yeah, that's not sniffing
that
83 to 87.
That is bad. Bad.
Well, I mean, it's your first time out of the gate for the new season, right?
3 drops, 3 3-putts. Bad. Hadn't swung a club
Are you
since
moving them
October,
around
though.
a little bit?
No.
First time out?
No
You
foot
know
wedges.
why?
No foot wedges.
Come on.
No foot wedges. Nope.
Were you gambling?
No. I legit. It was bare bones yesterday.
Okay.
I'm gonna play again tonight.
Very nice.
Play again tonight.
Does your girlfriend play?
No, she does enjoy going out there and
Riding around.
getting some fresh air.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
She doesn't play.
Yeah, very peaceful. I really enjoyed it. I know I talk a lot about our son in lacrosse and so forth, but he was also on the golf team for 4 years in high school. And they play in the fall for golf. And I tell you, it's just so enjoyable to go out there and walk around for 9 or 18.
Yeah.
You know, peaceful. Very nice, especially, obviously, when the weather.
Playing the Mill tonight. You know the Mill?
That's where we played almost all our matches. I love that place.
Oh, it's a great, playing
Great place.
Playing the back nine.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
Tell you the other public course. Now, Blue Ash gets a lot of pub.
Blue Ash is
The
nice.
Vineyard gets a lot of pub.
I've never played there.
The Vineyard's beautiful.
Where
I bought
is
a
it? Where is
condo
that?
out there when I was right out of college and working at Channel 5. I bought a condo for $50,000, right? Put $5,000 down. It's all the $5,000 I had to my name, and bought a little condominium. Billy Hemmer and I used to live out there, and they had just built and opened the Vineyard, and so they cut the course into these woods out there, but on the front nine. It was a little more open, and so they had started to plant, and this is going back. I mean, this is 86, 87. So, I mean, you're talking a long time ago. And you knew it was going to be a matter of time when that stuff finally started to grow on the front nine, because the back nine is, from a beauty standpoint, it is incredible. But what I was getting at was, so the Vineyard's got a big rep, Blue Ash has got a big rep, just a couple, to name a couple. Mill I like a lot. But I tell you the place that has done a fantastic job is the Jack Nicklaus Golf Course out of Kings Island.
Oh, the Grizzly.
I think they have 27 holes out there.
Yeah, they redid it. I don't know if they still have 27.
They do.
Do they?
They do.
Okay.
It is really, really nice out there.
Yeah, I've played that twice. That's one of my favorite. Blue Ash is probably my favorite. I've only played Blue Ash once. But man, it's great. It was probably one of my favorite courses around here. But the Grizzly's really good. It's hard to get a tee time, probably because it's so good. But yeah, it's a nice course.
Elks Run, AJ says that's a good bang for your buck. I agree. That's another nice one. Richard from Indian Hill says if you want to play 18, you got to play the exclusive country clubs around town.
Let's get Richard from Indian Hill on the line. Let's do a little chatterbox outing out there at Camargo. You ever played Camargo, Tom?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
It's one of the top 50 courses in the entire world.
I know. And what they did was they redid that course. They shut it down in June last year, July, and it's not opening this year until early June. And so I had a friend of mine the other day. My daughter surprised me by coming in town. My wife and her put together a surprise. She was in the back of a SUV, and my wife had said, hey, could you run out to the truck and get something in the back? Well, I opened the back, and there's my daughter, right? And it was a surprise for Easter weekend. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
But anyway, so we love playing pickleball.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine is a member over at Camargo. I never understood. I never knew. You have to be invited to be a member of Camargo.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, all that crowd you run around with, you know that.
Yeah.
But we went over there and played pickleball the other day. And, I mean, they've got that course. It looks unbelievable what they've done there to that place. And it was already great to start with.
I mean, I was looking last year. I was just reading through a list of the top 50 golf courses in the world. 2 of them are in Ohio. Other one's Murfield up in Columbus where they play the Memorial.
Oh, that's a big league place.
Yeah. You talk about it.
But the nicest course in Columbus. Now, I know they play the Memorial every year in Dublin, right? The nicest course in Columbus, Ohio, is Scioto Country Club.
Oh, okay.
That's where they played the senior men's U.S. Open 2 years ago. That's over in Upper Arlington. That big league hood, kind of like the hood you grew up in, Paul.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, big league hood. And it's right there next to Ohio State. And, I mean, that's, yeah. But as far as just a public course up there in Columbus, if you're ever looking for somewhere to go, that scarlet and gray course, that's the official course of Ohio State.
Yeah.
They have 2 courses there, the scarlet and the gray. That's where Nicholas grew up playing. Golden Bear.
Pine Valley in New Jersey. That's what everybody always says.
I've heard that too.
Who's
that's big league joint.
You've played that course?
No, I've never played that course. I got a couple friends of mine that have played that course.
What have they said?
Oh, I think my dad's played there. Well, you know what? What we should do is when we have my dad on regularly on Wednesdays, is we should talk to him about different courses. He's played everywhere. All the traveling. Everywhere. He's played there. I mean, he's played out at Pebble Beach. He's played, everywhere. Yeah. And so he would be a good guy to get. Now this is a disturbing comment from George Santos. Says, Tom, I love the glasses. Are they from the Jeffrey Dahmer collection?
Mm-hmm. Tough.
I mean, George, come on. I borrowed these. I had forgotten a pair of cheaters, and I borrowed these. I think they look very good.
Yeah, Camargo was ranked number 58 back in 2000 for the 2021-2022 golf.com rankings.
Yeah. I mean, people travel from all over the country.
Yeah, I think it's the if I remember right, because I never played it, but I think it's because of the par threes. Like everybody talks about how great the par threes are on that course.
Yeah.
Kind of how challenging they are and how they're set up. But yeah, I had no clue. No clue. But then after I read about it, it's like one of those things. I don't know what the term is when you don't know of something and then you learn about it and then all of a sudden you hear all about it. Probably a week after that, somebody had told me about, I'm not trying to join it, but said, the process of what you have to do to get into that club. And yeah, it's extensive.
Well, the old story goes, and look, I never found out if this is true or not. But the old story goes is that Carl Lindner was never invited to be a member at Camargo Country Club. I mean, this is the all-time, and there's no maybe debate about this. This is the all-time big daddy in the history of Cincinnati businessmen.
Yeah.
And philanthropists, for that matter. He was not invited into that club. So what did he do? You know what he did? You know the story?
I know.
He bought the land next to Camargo Country Club. Bought the land. Built a bigger house than their clubhouse. Built a bigger swimming pool than their swimming pool. And that's where he lived. Next door. I believe that is a true story because I've heard it many, many times through the years.
That's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, AJ, come on. Don't get on this. I mean, there are a lot of things you could do. Don't get into Jeffrey Dahmer. What is the infatuation, by the way? We have a lot to talk about today. We'll get into the Reds and the NBA playoffs and that kind of thing. Could you please explain to me your generation? Because Netflix or somebody came out with this Jeffrey Dahmer. Did you watch it?
I got through the first 2 episodes and it got too depressing and I turned it off.
Did you watch it, Casey?
No interest in it.
Everybody was watching it. So
everybody was. Well, there's always been this infatuation through generations with these mass killers and all this kind of stuff and Charles Manson and, all this kind of thing. I mean, I just can't imagine taking time out of your day to learn more about an evil, evil man and the things that he did to people, killing people and wrecking their families' lives. Who goes and watches that shit?
Yeah.
Who?
I don't know. Our generation is very obsessed with the true crime and serial killer and
docuseries too.
I mean, doom and gloom. I mean, even if you look over at what's the huge show, The Walking Dead. You know, it's just always this dark and gloomy, and it feels pessimistic. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I do watch some, like the Jeffrey Dahmer one. I turned on the first episode or two just because, you know, everybody was watching it. It was a pop culture thing, and I just wanted to kind of at least be up on it so I could have a conversation about it. But I got through the first, I don't know, like I said, 2 episodes maybe, and I just said, I'm good. I'm done.
Okay. All right.
I'm done.
Okay. Everett brings up a good point. He says all generations have been infatuated with this kind of stuff or drawn to this stuff. And I said that. I said Charles Manson. I went back. I mean, I
do. No, I was saying that just because, I mean, maybe more so just looking at like Netflix and all these things that are readily available with social media and everything else that we're sharing, you know. It seems to me like, I mean, even I think back to myself living through the DC Sniper back in.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I was out there. That was something I will never forget because that was something that I very much lived through for a month and a half.
And they couldn't catch him for a long time.
No, they called him.
2 guys.
It was 2 guys, yeah.
Young kid, if I remember right, a teenager, right? And then some guy who was dark, you know, really
an older
bad
guy.
Influence, obviously.
Yeah, a guy that basically radicalized him. Right. Yeah, and that was an incredibly scary situation because you couldn't even get gas. You couldn't do anything because people were getting shot at gas stations. You'd get out of your car to get gas.
Yep.
I mean, I was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, but I vividly remember it because it was so traumatizing. You got out of your car and you were just, I mean, gas stations would be empty, parking lots would be empty, and then finally they caught him at a rest stop in Maryland.
I remember years ago when I was working at WGN, and we'll wrap up this talk about this dark stuff, but I'll never forget, it was one of the most poignant moments of my life as a young adult. When I was at WGN in Chicago announcing the Cubs games. And so in the winter, I had to work there all winter and would do any number of things from morning drive sports, afternoon drive sports, Bears pregame, postgame, whatever. And on Saturdays, I'd have to do every other third week, whatever it was, like a 5-hour talk show. And so most of the time you're staying on sports, but there was a woman who had come to the station the day before on a Friday. And she was being interviewed for a very short amount of time on the afternoon drive time. She was the leading person in the FBI of diving into the psychology and the psychiatry of serial killers. She had traveled coast to coast and all over the world and interviewed any serial killer that you've ever heard of, and some overseas that here in the States we had never heard of. Wasn't the internet back then. And I remember asking her, I ended up having her on the show and talking to her, and was there a common denominator in all of these different people? Men, women, the Ted Bundys, the Charles Mansons, whoever, right? On and on and on and on. The guy in Illinois, terrible, dressed up as a clown. I'm drawing a blank on his name. But she said, look, she said, you can walk in the room. She said, you will be there for 30 seconds. She said, the common denominator is you look them in the eye, and 2 things are for sure. You are staring into the very heart of undescribable evil. All of them, as charming as they can be. And she used Ted Bundy as a case in point. But she said, number 1 is that. And number 2, there is no chance on God's earth that we should ever believe that any of these people can spend time in jail and let them out on parole. She says, no how, no way. There is no such thing in her very educated opinion that any of those people can be rehabilitated. No chance. She said it's terrifying. So, I don't know, just something. We're really drifting on it. Never land here. All right, John Wayne Gacy. Thank you, Steve. Hate even saying his name. Okay. We're going to talk about, we said yesterday we were going to walk through the Western Conference of the NBA playoffs today. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the games last night, and then we'll talk about the Western Conference matchups as the playoffs, the real playoffs, will begin this coming weekend once the final seed in each conference is determined over the next 3 days. So, Ham and Eggers, take it away.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
All right. If you have not already, make sure you go down there, you like the video, you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're over 4,500 subscribers right now. We're kind of kicking the tires, trying to think about 5,000. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, I know we always pitch it at the top of the show. We're going to start pitching it now during the second Ham and Eggers segment. Subscribe to the podcasts. If you go to iTunes, to Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe. You can just click on the Chatterbox Sports page, and you can see all of the podcasts that we run, from this to Chatterbox Reds to Box Lunch, Not Too Picky, The Mental Game, Rebound Rundown. All of that is on there. If you enjoy the show, leave a rating and a review. Helps us to know what you like, what you want to hear more of. And, again, we will have the Box Lunch, I believe, coming up here at noon, right after this show is over. So go in there, like the video, subscribe. Chatterbox Reds is live every night after the Reds game. It is live. Trace and Nick Kirby do that every night after the Reds game. They usually get on, probably 8th or 9th inning of the games. And then they hop on, do that, and then recap the game. They've been doing that every night. They will continue to do that every night. Reds don't have another off day till the 27th. Get a nice long off season, and then you get a nice long first month of the season. So they will be doing that, and all of those episodes get published also in podcast form, available for you every morning. So if you're driving into work and you want to just get caught up on what happened on the Reds game from the night before, you can do that just by listening to Chatterbox Reds. Casey, anything I'm forgetting? Anything we need to pub that we are doing? Oh, also Chatterbox Idol. Are those applications closed?
I know that we're going through them, reaching out to people. So if you haven't done it already, please go ahead, apply. We are going through those right now. And I think we're going to be doing a filtration process here very, very soon. And then shortly
just
after
like
that,
Pawnee Water.
Yeah, right after that, I think we're going to be attempting to do it for real. So
hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe.
Yep.
Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So all of that is up and around the corner, and that's your advertisements on Chatterbox Sports and everything that we're doing.
It's a lot going on.
Tom, I got to ask.
Yes.
Because I think people have really enjoyed the last couple of days where we've branched off into some different topics.
Yes.
I know it hasn't been totally sports, but I saw somebody comment in a few minutes ago that they thought yesterday was a fantastic show.
Thank
you. Got to ask. We never tied a ribbon on Breaking Bad. Did you finish it? What did you think?
Well, look, here's the deal, okay? Like a lot of you. Now, I have a couple friends of mine who are married guys where, their wife will go to bed at, say, 9:30, right? Because they're up and at 'em the next morning. Mm-hmm. And they will then sit down about 10 p and sit there till like 2:30 a and rip off 6, 7 episodes in a row of whatever it is they're watching, right? I got a couple of really good friends. They do that regularly. I can't pull that off because I can't stay up that late. So generally what I do is, like when my wife was out of town with our daughter for spring break and I had to stay home with Luke because he's still in high school. So, he's got homework at night, and I'll sit down and over a 4 or 5 night, run, I'll rip off 3, 4 a night, right?
Sure.
Okay. So I am in season 5, which I think is the last season.
It is.
Right? So I'm about 4 or 5 episodes in. So it's been about a week and a half since I've been able to watch one. Now, I'll settle in here over the next night, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow night. Not the weekend. We're double dipping in lacrosse this weekend, so we'll be traveling a little bit. But, yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Excellent show. Excellent show. It was really cool. When we were out in Phoenix, we went out to the Waste Management Open, and that was the same weekend, of course, in Phoenix where they played the Super Bowl in Phoenix. So there are local news. If there was ever a time to watch local news, that was the week in Phoenix because everybody who's anybody was out there, right? Sports, broadcasting, music, entertainment, politics, whatever. And one morning while we were out there, they had the two primary characters from Breaking Bad. What's the guy's name? Cranston?
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, and then the
Aaron
Jesse
Paul.
guy.
Isn't that Aaron Paul?
I think so.
I don't know. But anyway, they were on TV. I'd say they seem like really cool guys, just as people.
Yeah, it is.
Really
Aaron
cool
Paul.
guys.
Yep.
Are they planning on doing anything like a movie or something like that? Because there are a couple shows that I know it's been going on a long time now, and there's been no movement on the thing, that Sons of Anarchy was going to come out with a movie.
Yeah. So
And then there's another big one that's coming out with a movie.
So I don't really want to.
Huge one.
I don't know.
There's another huge show. Peaky Blinders.
Oh yeah. Yep. So I won't spoil the end of the show for you.
Please don't.
But when you get to the end of the show, it'll make sense. There is a spin-off movie on Netflix of Breaking Bad. It's called El Camino.
Okay.
And it's a spin-off. It's kind of like a postscript of the show, basically. And it's pretty good. I enjoyed watching it. But it's not an extension. It's not more episodes. It's just a 2-hour whatever film. I don't think they're going to do anything more with it. I mean, they did Better Call Saul, which is an entire.
They did. Yeah.
I mean, that's an
He's
entire.
a good character.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a good sense of humor. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
He adds so much value to the show. He's really good.
Have you watched Succession?
So I have not. I actually just got HBO Max not too long ago, and I haven't, with college basketball and everything else, I haven't had time to. I'm watching Full Swing on Netflix right now, the golf documentary.
Yeah, I hear it's great.
Yeah, so I'm 3 or 4 episodes in. I think I'm on episode 4 right now. I've started it the last 2 nights. Finally, I think I've watched one night of Netflix in the last 5-6 months, but now that everything's kind of calming down a little bit, I've had some more time. So I started Full Swing on Netflix. Thought that was really good. I heard some mixed reviews on that. I saw some people say they didn't.
I've heard everybody say it was great.
I heard a couple people that I know say that they didn't like it, that it didn't hook them. I think it's fantastic. I've really enjoyed it.
Jolly says, have I gotten to the part where Walter White does he meet Jeffrey Dahmer? Is there truth to that, or Jolly just jacking around here?
I think he's jacking around here.
All right, Jolly, you're tired, and that's tired. Succession, I hear, is fantastic.
Yeah, I hear that's an elite show.
Yeah.
Haven't watched it yet.
So that may be it next up. And thank you for the suggestion in the chat about that. Okay, let's get to.
You want to do the Reds?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say
we didn't do the Reds yesterday.
All right. I want to pick up. Let's start with the product on the field. What do you think from what, and you're a big baseball guy, Paul, and Casey, you have started to adopt being more in on baseball.
Yep.
When you change the channel from FC, you'll tune into a baseball game from time to time. But, of course, they only play once a month, so you can watch a lot of baseball in between games in the MLS. But, come on, relax. Your thoughts, both of you guys, your thoughts about the Reds so far, 10 games in, 4 up, 6 down.
Well, I think there's positives and negatives, obviously, stating the obvious there. But I think if you're looking at positives, I think the lineup, and you alluded to this yesterday, the lineup has vastly outperformed what I think a lot of people assumed this lineup would do before the season started. Something that's clearly very concerning about this is that in their 6 losses, they have had the lead or been tied in all 6 losses and have lost those games. And 4 of the 6 have been 1-run games?
Yeah.
So they're right there. Where I struggle with this Reds team, and my mom was watching the game last night, and she asked me, she was so frustrated. She goes, why don't they just get one bullpen arm? Why don't they just get one guy that they can get out of the bullpen that they can rely on? And I'm sitting there going, well, they kind of do. Alexis Diaz is pretty good.
Solid.
He's very solid.
Yep.
And I see the frustration because I get where she's coming from. But at the same time, I don't know if you want to spend the money on the bullpen right now when you're not necessarily trusting that you can compete at a really high level as this season goes on. I don't know if this offense right now is sustainable in the long run of this season, or if eventually water's going to find its level and they're going to end up 20 games under 500, and then it's just going to be a situation where you're saying to yourself, good thing we didn't spend that money back in April when things look good. Now, if you get a big enough sample size on this season and they start to play like this, I mean, last night before, both very winnable games. Mm-hmm. Both very winnable games. And they lose. That's taxing. Mentally, it's you start to get yourself beat down. It's frustrating. But I don't know what the corrective issue is there besides going out and shoring up the bullpen. The flip side of that coin, though, is do you want to go out and spend a bajillion dollars on a bullpen on April 12th when you're 10 games into the season? I don't think you do.
Well, you're not going to find those guys to start with. I mean, you're not going to be able to start assembling good bullpen veteran or established guys because they're already pitching for somebody else. But, Casey, let me ask you this. Everything Paul just said is true.
Right.
But it's also true that the Reds lost over 100 games for just the second time in franchise history last year, and everybody universally across the world, except for maybe Nick Krall and David Bell and some of the guys on the team, felt like the Reds were going to stink again this year. Okay? Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm asking is, you're playing toe-to-toe with a couple of pretty decent teams. The Cubs aren't any good. I know they came back. Reed told me, bragging about them coming back from 7-0 down and winning last night. They're not any good. Pirates aren't any good. But the Phillies, even though we mentioned, injuries, Harper's on his way back, Hoskins out for the year, not a very good bullpen there either. They played with Philadelphia. They dropped 2 out of 3. They've played with Atlanta. They've dropped 2 in a row. So is it unfair to sort of change your expectations of the team, or do you maybe have a little more optimism about the team, that they're at least competing against a team like Atlanta, who many believe is going to win or play in the World Series?
Yeah, I mean, just from the 10 games, and I think, Paul kind of touched on this a little bit. I don't know if that's enough of a sample size just because of how long the season is. But I do kind of get this feeling like, Philadelphia is supposed to be a really good team. Atlanta also supposed to be a really good team. Tampa Bay Rays, we're going to be playing them again, or not again, but we're going to be playing them. That's a pretty decent team. And then the Rangers, they're playing really good right now too. I don't know. This is like a really tough part of the schedule for me to sit here and say yeah, this is who they are, and we just need one more guy. My expectations are still the same. I think they get over their win total that everyone's been talking about. That's what my expectations were. It was at 66, I believe.
Yeah, 65. 65 and a half.
To me, I think they've shown you enough to where, I mean, they could easily be a team that is sitting at above 500 right now. And I think if you were to extrapolate that out through the rest of the season, I think you would easily get over that 66 win mark.
I think this is a team that playing right now, this is a team that is trending in the direction of hitting that 70 win mark. I think they are competitive enough right now to at least kick the tires on that. The problem is that I'm worried about, and I said this last night, I just don't think that what they are doing right now is sustainable. I think that they are kind of catching lightning in a bottle through these first 10 games. And now, granted, I will sit here.
You mean offensively?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Offensively.
Yeah.
I will be the first to admit that I now, up until probably this week, have the first 6-7 games, I didn't have a chance to watch every single inning, watch a ton of what was going on. I've seen the box scores, I've seen the highlights, I've listened to Chatterbox Reds. So I'm getting the gist of everything going on, but seeing it with my own eyes and now watching these last couple of games in Atlanta, I think you make a good point that Atlanta is a competitor. Atlanta is not competitor. They are a contender. And to go down there and play. Oh, look, the running joke last year was, they played well in Atlanta. They played well in Atlanta. The first series of the year, they played well in Atlanta. That was the running joke last year.
Yeah.
They haven't won a game here in the last 2 nights, but they played well in Atlanta. Now, is that going to be the running joke again over the next 4 months? Who knows? But I do think that they are playing better right now through the first 10 games of the season.
For sure.
They're playing much better than I think a lot of people expected them to. It's just a matter of, is it sustainable? I don't know if it is.
Brian brings up a fantastic point, and I have talked about this on this show before, but he hits a nail on the head in a very small paragraph. Brian B. India, solid player, not a good second baseman. He's a terrible second baseman. Same for Steer down at third. Can hit. It looks like he might hit. Not a good third baseman. Stevenson is not an elite defensive catcher. And you don't know if he's going to be there at the long haul anyway. Barrero, to be determined. I agree. Fraley, good hitter, bad outfielder. The rest are according to Brian, role players. And we've talked about, what young players are going to get the chance first and come up. Look, the bullpen is going to change strictly because those guys are going to be half dead down there. And I don't say that tongue-in-cheek. You've got Hunter Green, can't pitch past 5 for 2 starts. We know how good both Ashcraft and Lodolo have been. Your 4 and 5 starters are lucky to get through 4 innings. So if you're having to cover 3 out of 5 days a week, if you're having to cover 4 and 5 innings, 3 days a week, 3 out of 5 days a week, the guys are going to be unable to pitch. Yeah. Because you've used them too much. So the bullpen in some form or fashion is going to change just out of necessity. Now, they get Sims back. This has to go to the bullpen. But now what do you do with the 4 and 5 starter spots? They're not going to throw into the towel yet on Overton. They're going to wait on him a little bit. Sessa may be better served in the bullpen if Weaver comes back, when Weaver comes back. But Weaver is, we'll see. But this is not a good defensive team. And here's my question, and I think Brian, again, points it out accurately. You've got 3 guys on your team that you figure to be a part of your core moving forward. That if you're ever going to get to a position where you really believe you can contend for a championship, you can't play those guys defensively where they're playing now every day. There is no way Indy is going to stay a second baseman. Steer, I don't know. I mean, Encarnacion-Strand, they say he's not a good third baseman. They're going to move him to first. Stevenson, they want to lighten the load. They're doing it already for him behind the plate to get him as a DH, maybe next year as a first baseman when Votto is gone. The easy thing to do is say, yeah, they're competing. That's all true. Yes, they're playing better than they were last year. There's no doubt. They show some grit and some toughness. No doubt. But look, it's going to be fascinating to see where they play these young players when they bring them to the big leagues. I mean, I loved last night seeing Barrero a little bit in center field. I have always been a huge proponent of, look, if Chris Bryant can be Chris Bryant, why can't other guys who aren't as good as Chris Bryant be Chris Bryant? You go watch the Cubs in 1 week. You'd see Bryant one day at first, next day at third, next day in left, next day in right. Why can't more players do that? These guys are phenomenal athletes. Move them around.
See what sticks.
See, and see where they're best suited to play. But when you start getting boxed in, and they're not there yet because India's only in his 3rd year. He won the Rookie of the Year, and then last year was not very good. He played through some injuries. That's fine. He's off to a good start this year. But are they locked in on India forever? to play second base?
I sure hope not.
Are you going to have the courage to move him or ask him to move? It shouldn't even be a debatable topic.
Yeah, and if you're looking down in the minor leagues, Joey Votto's 1 for his last 19. Don brings up a good point here. I was just getting ready to bring it up, and I see it in the chat. He's struck out 20 times in his 38 plate appearances, and he has 1 hit since April 4th. Just not a great stretch right now for Joey down in AAA. I know it's AAA, and I know he's I know that's not, you can't read a ton into that, but it's not exactly like he's tearing the cover off the ball right away to start the year.
And in fairness, Votto, who is always quite open and honest about his assessment of himself, he said, he was pushing it there at the end of spring training. He was starting to play regularly, but he never got the chance in back-to-back games to play a full 9 innings. So he said, all right, look, let's go down to the minor leagues and get in lots of work down there. We've had people on this chat that have said they think Votto might retire. That ain't happening. He is not walking in the door and walking away from $25 million this year. That's not happening. And he is an uber competitive guy. He works his tail off. He has been a fantastic player here his whole career. He doesn't want to go out on last season's numbers. He was hurt. You admire him playing through it, didn't talk about it, didn't make excuses about it, but he clearly was hurt. His shoulder, triceps, biceps, that whole area, he couldn't do anything. He was a shadow of the guy who played well the year before. And they are going to bring him up sooner or later. It's Joey Votto. But, you're going to sit down some guys who might be doing okay for you to bring up a guy who's, 39, struggling. These are really hard decisions when you're inside of a baseball operations thing. Really hard decisions. When you've got a guy who's meant to your franchise, and there have been other examples through the years of when do we just say, okay, this is done. And I don't mean release him, but I'm just saying, you might have to have a conversation with him if his struggles continue at AAA, or maybe then they bring him up and his struggles continue at the big league level. That like, hey, Joey, we got to think about this. I'm not going to count Votto out yet, and I don't think you guys are by suggesting that.
No.
He will keep playing, and he will give you everything he has. Mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, he'll give you everything he's got. Okay. Are you boys ready to dive into the National Basketball, or as your generation likes to call it, just the association?
I'm ready if you are,
Let's
Tom.
do it.
Okay, let's start with last night real quick. So we mentioned the Lakers win. They're in. So we're going to put up this, if you have it, Paul, Casey, the graphic of where everything stands. The number 8 seed of the real playoffs is still TBD. 2 games tonight. Winner of the game tonight will play the losers from last night. That'll take the next 3 days to determine. And then you're off and running with the NBA playoffs. And we decided we were going to talk about the Western Conference. Now, we don't know who the 8th seed is, but whoever the 8th seed is in the West, they're going to have to face the number 1 seed, the team that's been the best team in the NBA this year, right? The Denver Nuggets.
Last night's game between the Lakers and the Timberwolves was maybe the most disgusting basketball game in the NBA that I can remember watching. It was awful, but it was fun because it was awful. It was close. It ended up being close. The Lakers were down by as many as 15. They started to come back. They kind of they were scrappy. It was third quarter. They were still losing. Fourth quarter, they were still losing. Tied the game at 95. Lakers had the ball with about 20 seconds left, and Lakers had the ball with 20 seconds left, Tom. They're inbounding from the sideline because now you can advance the ball. So they're inbounding from the sideline. LeBron waits, he waits. Drives. It's like the Jimmy Chitwood, except he didn't take the shot. He drives. All the attention comes on him. Everybody's assuming he's going to take the shot. Kicks it out. Dennis Schroeder in the corner. Nails down a three. Lakers up by 3. 1 second, 1.5 seconds left. Game's over. No, it's not. Timberwolves call timeout. Advance the ball to midcourt.
Which is a great rule, by the way.
Love that rule.
I wish a college rule, with college game, would adopt that rule.
I have been asking for that rule for so long in college basketball because what happens, and I'm not going to get on the soapbox, but what happens in college basketball is you get to this situation and then you get the home run pass at the end, and it worked for Christian Laettner, and it doesn't work for many other people. And
anybody.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll see something
right.
cool, but I mean it's advance the ball. It's much more exciting for the game. Anyway, T-Wolves advance the ball, kick to the corner. I mean, this shot had no chance of going in. Anthony Davis comes flying out at the shooter. 1/10 of a second left. Gets fouled on a three. Makes all 3 free throws. Go to overtime. Clutch. And the first one looked awful. First one looked like it wasn't going in. Finally, kick out to the corner. And, kick out to the corner, got fouled, made all 3 free throws. They ended up losing in overtime, but I mean, it was just not a pretty game. There were turnovers. There was bad defensive effort. There was missed shots. There was a charge. How often do you see a charge called in the NBA?
Never.
Karl Anthony Towns he's barreling down the lane. LeBron takes a charge. Not a great game, but it was kind of fun playing basketball. So now the T-Wolves got to play again for their playoff lives, and the Lakers are in.
Okay, let's go ahead and put that graphic up again, and we're just going to pay attention to the left side because we're talking about the Western Conference to begin things. Any of those 4 series, and obviously the one with the top seed Denver TBD, any of those stand out to you that you say this is a must-watch series?
Oh, yeah.
Casey, let's start with you.
For me, I hope I'm not stealing anyone's thunder.
That's all right.
I have two games that I'm looking at here that I think are really, really. Oh, honestly, the whole West Side's very interesting to me.
A great stars in the West Side.
Yeah.
West is always loaded.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with the Kings versus the Warriors here. The Kings having one of the most explosive offenses in the NBA this year. They play no defense, and let me tell you, it's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I mean, they're going to win some ball games, and especially in the playoffs. So that's my one game that I'm really looking forward to seeing. I think there's going to be lots of scoring. Yeah, I mean, the Kings also, just to kind of give a little tidbit of info, they finally broke their playoff drought. That's big news for them.
Yeah.
I mean,
2005, 2006, the last time the Sacramento Kings were in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the 2 players that you really want to watch for, Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, they have probably the best pick-and-roll offense right now in the NBA, and that's how they get a lot of their scoring. They've also just, like I said, they play no defense, which really would benefit the
Warriors.
The Warriors here. And if you're going to give me an option between, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson being able to outscore the Kings, I'll take that all day, every day. I think – and that's also why I'm looking forward to it, because the Warriors are not favored in this. They are underdogs. So that's my matchup, at least for the NBA right now.
It's worth noting here that the top 5 seeds in the West, not one of those franchises has won a championship in the quote-unquote modern era. Not one of them has won a championship. Memphis moved, you may remember, from Seattle. So going, back a long time, the Seattle Supersonics won a championship. But when you look at the top 5 seeded teams in the West, not one has championship history on its side, and you've got a load of titles from 6 on, right?
Right.
You got Golden State. That whole crew's won, 3 or 4 together, right?
Yep.
You got the Lakers, LeBron, all his titles. So, look, the other thing that stands out to me, Paul, before we get to your series is I'm amazed. And look, regardless of sport, you win a lot more home games than road games. But it's incredible how bad some of these really, really good teams in the West have struggled on the road. You got teams under 500 on the road. And then, of course, they go 33-7 or something stupid at home, right?
Yeah.
So, that's going to be a big part of this. All right, Paul, what series for you jumps
Well,
out?
I had the same one. I'll also tag on the Suns and the Clippers.
Yes.
I think that has a lot of intrigue to it. But the Kings and the Warriors is probably the most intriguing series in the entire postseason. The Kings were plus 25,000 to win the Pacific Division in the preseason. Plus 25,000.
So if you bet $100, you won at $25,000.
25 G's.
Wow.
It's incredible.
And they won it. Get back to the postseason. Really, really special season for the Sacramento Kings. One of my really good friends from Xavier lives out in Sacramento. So I'm kind of forced to follow them just by all the posting he does about the Kings on social media. So going through the season and watching what they were able to do throughout the year and to get to this point to make the postseason and to now be playing the Warriors. This has a chance to really be a way to solidify the success that they had this year to knock off the defending champions from last year who had flown under the radar. I think everybody could agree that the Warriors flew under the radar last year because people had been hurt. You look at what Klay Thompson had been through with his injury, hadn't played in like 3 years. And then all of a sudden the Warriors come back and they win another title. Now they're having to play the Kings, the 3 seed, and every team in the Pacific Division made the postseason for the first time ever. So this is a very talented division. It's a group of teams that have played each other a lot, and it's a Kings team that burst onto the scene this year that has, Domantas Sabonis, as you said, De'Aaron Fox, some talent on that team, clearly, to be able to win that division. And now they're going to have to go out there and try and throw something against the wall and see what sticks against a Warriors team that has done a whole lot of winning in the last 7 years.
Whole lot of winning. And by the way, thank you for pointing out. I didn't realize that I had misspoke when I knew that Oklahoma City is where the Supersonics used to play. I said Memphis. Please forgive me. Thank you for pointing that out. Look, most eyeballs are going to be by far in the opening round, I think it's safe to say. The most eyeballs are going to be on Memphis and the Lakers.
Agreed.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, start with LeBron. You go for your guy, Morant.
My guy?
Both you guys. You're all about Ja Morant.
What?
And so, look, all of the eyeballs are going to be on that series. The Lakers had the second best record in the NBA from the All-Star break on after they overhauled that roster. D'Angelo Russell has been insane.
Yep.
Russell's a hell of a player. I mean, I don't know what his deal is off the court or whatever. He's bounced around with a lot of different teams.
He's been all over.
Yeah, but I mean, he can play now.
Yeah.
He can play. He can shoot it. Scorer is what he is. Scorer. LeBron missed a lot of games. Mentioned he played in just 54 games. Seems like every year Anthony Davis is hurt, but now he's healthy. I think that's a series to watch because Memphis has had a great year. There's no doubt about it. They're exciting. They're young. They're fun to watch. And then the other team, not necessarily series, and I'm not suggesting they're going to blow through this series, is Phoenix.
Yeah.
Phoenix has one of the greatest fan bases, and I lived out there for over a dozen years. Their fan base out there is second to none. They fill that place up every night. And, look, they make the huge deal, without a doubt, the biggest deal there was in a league by bringing in Durant. He's been hurt a lot. The 9 games he's played for them, they're undefeated. And they've got him, and they've got Paul, and they've got Booker. That's a star-studded lineup.
Yep.
And for them to come rolling into this whole thing, what are they, a 4?
Yep.
So that's a 4 or 5. I don't know a lot about the Clippers.
They're dealing with some injuries right now.
That's what I thought.
They, I think, is it Paul George?
Yes, Paul George is out.
Yeah, Paul George is out. And they have Russell Westbrook, which I'm not the biggest fan, but he's played a lot better.
Yes, he has.
With being with the Clippers. But Kawhi Leonard as well. As this is his first time back, I think, since the big injury.
Phenomenal player.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It'll be an interesting matchup, the Suns versus the Clippers. But, I have a lot of faith that the Suns are going to make a deep push. I think they get it done at least this first round.
When people think Chris Paul, they think postseason success.
Yeah, definitely.
First thing that comes to mind when I
think Chris Paul, it's every commercial that's on television, it seems like. Right? He's become the Aaron Rodgers of postseason, or of it seems like, of commercials.
State Farm.
His walking, competitive walking
Oh, yeah.
skills.
Yeah, that's a good ad.
Whatever happened to his brother? His twin brother, Cliff? Whatever happened to Cliff Paul? I don't see those anymore.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
All right, let's walk through who you think are going to win these series.
All right.
Okay?
I'll
They
put it
start
back
up this weekend. And we're all under the assumption, is it safe to say we're all picking, regardless of who they play, we're taking Denver?
Yeah, I'm on that train.
And if you're wondering, and I had to look it up, every series in the postseason of the NBA is a best of 7.
Yep.
Right.
This goes on, till the middle of June.
It's basically another season.
Yeah.
The NBA playoffs are basically another season, the way that this goes. And then you get to the finals, and the finals take damn near a month. I feel like when you turn on the NBA finals, you watch game 1, you could live an entire life, and then, it's game 7.
Yeah, what's
It's kind of like MLS.
Yeah, kind of.
Take a break.
It's 4/11/20 or 4/11/23 is when they started this whole shindig. So let's see how long.
Postseason?
Yeah, let's just see how long we'll be talking about these NBA playoffs for how long.
What do our lives look like when one team is finally hosting the trophy?
Well, we know one thing that's going to change.
What would that be?
Are you kidding?
Casey.
Are you kidding?
Brother.
One major event is going to take place while these NBA playoffs are going on.
Sports related? What are we talking about
Oh,
here?
my God, Tom.
Oh, my God. Casey, did you send out wedding invitations?
Casey.
I got it. It took me a minute. My wedding.
Yeah, that'll happen.
I'm sure that Alex is going to be thrilled.
In fact, that might be the same night as Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
It's close if it's
the
not.
NBA Finals, to back up your point, Paul, if it goes 7 games, the NBA Finals start on June the 1st.
June 1st, yeah.
Game 1.
Yeah.
Game 7
It's ridiculous.
would be June the 18th.
Golly.
That is laughable. That is laugh out loud funny. 17 days.
Tell you what, though, those guys will be tired.
Oh, yeah, I'm not denying that, but 17 days.
All right, let's go back.
Incredible.
Casey, you might want to clean that up when you get home today. I don't know if Alexandria is watching today. She hadn't been watching, I don't think, much lately. But good Lord. Paul and I have to remind you you're getting married. Everybody's killing you on the chat. Everybody. The player formerly known as Mouse Cop, Everett, wedding line down to -2 hundo.
Casey will be in the chat on his honeymoon. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Casey pop up here.
True.
The real Spirit Cat had
the
the best line of all. He said, if Casey says the NFL draft, I'll fall out. All right. All right, real quick, let's walk through these. We're getting down to the final 5 minutes of the program, and we have box lunch coming up. All right, Suns v. Clips. Who you taking?
I'm taking the Phoenix Suns.
Paul?
Yep, taking the Suns.
All right, so then you'd have the Suns v. Denver next round. All right, Kings, Warriors. Paul?
Taking the Warriors.
Yeah, I'm taking the Warriors too. I can't bet against.
I am too.
Yeah.
Grizzlies v. Lakers.
Ooh,
That's the tough one.
I'm taking the Lakers.
taking the Grizzlies.
Ooh, I gotta go with Lakers, man. I can't.
Okay, so the only of the four opening rounds of the four series, we agree on everything across the board except for, Paul, you're taking the Grizzlies.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to stop it there because, look, we'll see if all of us, we're predicting that Denver will play Phoenix. We're predicting that the Warriors will play. Casey and I have the Lakers. Paul has the Grizzlies.
Yep.
Okay. Tomorrow, we will walk through the Eastern Conference. Okay? We will walk through the East. Milwaukee, the 1 seed. Boston, the 2 seed. Those two teams, along with Philadelphia, have clearly been the best 3 teams in the East. But a lot of people are saying don't sleep on Cleveland. Another team that's back in the playoffs for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
All right, do we have a cherry on top presented by United Dairy Farmers before we get to boxed lunch?
Hold on, let me see if I. No, I don't think so.
No, we do not.
We will have one tomorrow. I promise you, Tom. We'll have a cherry on top.
You're not bothering me at all. A lot of people just
Disappointed.
No, they're more disappointed in Casey for us having to remind him that over the course of the NBA Finals, there was going to be one major change in life after he brought up, boy, think about the changes in your life. Huh. And you have no idea what kind of change that is.
I was
going.
dialed in.
You have no idea.
I was dialed into sports talk.
I always say I never knew what a complete jerk I was until I got married. And then you find out you're a big league jerk. Reed Mouse!
Tom, how's it going?
You haven't been married very long.
I've been married for a year and a half.
Okay.
Year and a half.
Now, have you gone from being just a wonderful, lovable, adorable, kind, nice, compassionate, empathetic, sympathetic figure to being none of the above?
My life hadn't changed a whole lot since I got
year and a half still like a newlywed.
Well, no, me and Mariana dated for 8 years before we got married. We were high school sweethearts, so not a whole lot changed. I do find myself getting grumpier as I go on, and I don't know if that's age. I don't know if it's
you or her getting grumpier.
I'm getting grumpier.
That is a bedrock of growing older.
I know. I didn't know if that was because I got married or if I just me growing up or getting older. I don't know. Okay. Turn 27 next month, Tom.
Oh, boy.
Midlife crisis coming soon.
Yeah, 27. All right, what do you got coming up on the on Box Lunch?
We're going to talk some Reds, but I have a proposition. And you know what? I was going to extend it to Paul. But, Tom, what are you doing Father's Day weekend?
What am I doing? Father's Day weekend?
Yeah, you got any plans?
I have no clue. I don't even know when it is. Is it in May?
It's in June. It's in
okay.
June. Mother's Day is in May.
Yes.
When was the last time you played golf? I know you said
I played down in the Dominican.
You did. You played. So you're back. You're back on.
No, I'm not back. But like I said before, I played enough as a younger man where I could at least get around. And, so I said to Luke, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to be down here and give you a tail kicking. And I got beat by one.
Got beat by one?
I hit it pretty good.
All right. So let me extend this proposition. Luke obviously is a high school golfer.
Yep.
You swing the chicken sticks pretty well yourself. Let's get Chatterbox. You, me, Paul, Trace, Spur, anyone that plays golf. The Hamilton City Championship right here in the city of Sculpture. 2-day event. You play the 2 city courses. They put you play your first round, and then they put you in your flight. Let's all get in.
I'm all in.
Be a bonding experience for you and Luke. See who finishes better in the tournament of Father's Day.
So 2-man teams, you're saying?
No, it is mano y mano. All playing for yourself, all playing to hoist the title at the end of the whole thing, amongst other Hamiltonians. True common man.
Well, we've established really how far that goes around here. Casey and I are the very quintessential definition. And Trace, you and Paul, I don't know. I'm all in on that. I love that idea. You and I still have a big swimming date.
We do. You free this afternoon? You just want to go ahead and cross?
Not going today. I got to get back in fighting shape for that.
All right. Yeah. Well,
but you're telling me it's deep enough where we're going to do it, where you can swim across and not be hitting the bottom.
I have not scoped out the water. I assume.
Because a Little Miami, it's too shallow.
Well, yeah, it's little.
Well,
this is great.
Okay.
This Miami.
Yeah, I know.
Great.
It's a big one.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a big one.
All right. All right, tomorrow we're going to really get into some more football, too, by the way, which we did not do maybe for the first time ever today.
Yeah. We didn't do it.
We're going to have a couple of guests joining us tomorrow and Friday to walk through different teams around the NFL. We'll talk to Colts, Broncos, Bengals, among others, coming up over the next couple of days, Jaguars. So that'll be part of the program next couple of days. Tracy Jones back tomorrow. NBA playoffs continue tonight. Reds play tonight. So, Case, thank you. Paul, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Is Trace coming in here for this?
He's not. Trace is off the program for the time being. He's focusing more on Chatterbox Reds, so Box Lunch is
okay. All right, you're on, Paul, today, Box Lunch?
Well, we're all on today.
All right, here we go. Box Lunch. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow.
I must admit, I didn't think much of this show the first time I laid eyes on it. Seemed like a bunch of stiffs wasting nice
the worst
microphones.
Trade of all time happened back in 1803. Go ahead. Napoleon Bonaparte traded the Louisiana Purchase for $3 million. Napoleon, what happened? Half the country for $3 million. You can't even get Tucker Barnhart for $3 million.
Then I came to realize these guys are funny.
And Justin Fields have identical stats the last 5 weeks about throwing the football. This guy, okay,
and
folks,
are
is a
some of
fidget
the best
spinner.
gamblers I've come to know.
If you're betting on USC and or TCU, let it be known you are a square.
TCU is going to hammer this team tomorrow night.
I hate to hear that.
Tomorrow
when we come back
afternoon.
in here on Monday, you're going to be happy as a lark because USC lost, but you're going to be wrong about TCU.
Get ready for the most useless hour of your day. It's time for Boxed Lunch, presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Now, Casey, run that track.
There are few people more elite at their job than Casey finding royalty-free music. I mean, listen to this.
It's gotten progressively better.
The vibes that he gives this show leads off with this song. So he sets the tone. He's the leadoff batter. And he sets it well every time. Sets the table. This is Box Lunch presented by Betfred Sportsbook. I'm Reed Mouse. We got Paul Frischner and Casey McAllister, the producers today, joining the show, guys. Thank you for, you know what? You guys do such a great job. You do 2 hours with Off the Bench, and then I just string you along for another hour, and I feel bad about that, but I do appreciate you guys just yakking it up with me over here.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Let's rock.
Let's rock and roll. All right, so today on the show, we're going to talk a lot of Reds. We might talk a little bit of football, as you see on the J-Bar. Jeff Okuda got traded yesterday, and then I got a proposition to Paul. I'm trying to sell him on it.
All right.
Trying to sell him on what I just talked to Tom about, the Hamilton City Championship. But that's for a couple months. So I got a few weeks to really sell him on it. But first and foremost, let's talk about the Cincinnati Reds. Another one-run loss yesterday. And, you know, we're getting to the point of the season, only 10 games in. And you're already starting to hear people going, let's fire David Bell. And then there's this other side of the aisle that, you know, sees the Cincinnati native, sees the man of Moeller and David Bell and goes, I mean, what do you expect him to do? And it rings so many similarities to, you know, you're at a family function and politics gets brought up. And I don't want to talk about politics. We're not going to do it. So I'm going to make this point and then move on. We're not going to get into the depths of it. But you start talking about the president initially, you know, people start firing off just crazy stuff back and forth. And at some point, someone throws up, you tell me what this president has done to make your life better. And you never have an answer for that. What, I got a checklist? Got a grocery list of things, of policies that the president has put into place that can just snap off the top of my head? That's what this feels like on really both sides of it, right? David Bell, as the leader of the Reds clubhouse, really has nowhere to turn. I mean, there's some people that are automatically, every decision he makes are going to be, this guy's terrible, get him out of there. And then there's some people that look at the roster, and rightfully so, and see, this team isn't built for winning, so why are we getting so hard on him? What is he supposed to do? Now, we're 10 games into the season, so if you want an analogy to football, we're week 1, right? There's 162 games. There's 17 weeks in an NFL season. We're through week 1, and you're already calling for the manager to get fired? What I want Reds fans to do, because it really does feel tired, I want both sides to just stop talking about David Bell and ask yourself one question and one question only. Do I want David Bell to be the manager of the Reds when it is time to compete? I don't want to hear, no, I want to see him get these young guys up and manage for a year, and then we'll decide. He's had 5 years to state his case. You know, that's how long Brian Price, Dusty Baker was a manager for 6 years. In fact, there's only been 2 managers in Reds history that have managed longer than 6 years. This is year 5 for David Bell. So what I want to see is no talk about David Bell, really, until the end of the year. You assess it at the end of the year, and I know you're going to have situations where it seems like a terrible, why did we bring this guy in? Why did we pinch hit this? Whatever. I just don't want to hear, we need to fire him right now, or no, we need to give him more leash. He's had plenty of leash. He's seen a team rebuild and compete for playoff spots, and it didn't go well. And now we're going to see another rebuild and potentially in a couple of years start competing for a playoff spot. So ask yourself one question and one question only. When those young players come up and are ready to compete, do you want David Bell at this very time? There's no more indecision. There's nothing else that you can learn from David Bell's managerial style or what he can do with the team. Do you want him to be your manager in 2-3 years when you want to compete for a pennant, when you want to compete for the division title, when you want to compete for a World Series? And if the answer is no, then at the end of the year, you part ways with him. No need in firing him midseason. That helps nobody. Let him manage this season. And if the answer is yes, you extend him. You say, all right, you're our guy. 3-4 more years. And that's that. I personally, as a non-fan of the Reds,
think I've seen all I've needed to see. I think I'm ready to roll. Go to the next guy. Now, Paul?
No, go ahead. Finish your point.
Do you think they should ride out David Bell going forward?
Okay. So this was a big point of emphasis back with the Orioles in 2021 when Brandon Hyde was managing and they weren't winning a lot of games and had all this talent in the minor league system, and you kept thinking to yourself, okay, are they going to make a move here? Are they going to keep Brandon Hyde, or are they going to ride this out with him knowing that they aren't going to win games? And what you do here in this situation, and this is not rocket science, you hit the nail on the head, Reed. You want, at this point, your manager to be whoever it's going to be when they finally start winning games.
Right.
And if you don't think that David Bell is the man for the job to start winning games when that time comes in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, then you don't do it in the middle of the season because you're not competing for anything this year.
Right.
If you do, it's all gravy. And maybe, if anything, it shows you what kind of a manager he is. Like if you get to July and you're even remotely flirting with 500 baseball somehow, then maybe you start to take a look at David Bell and say, okay, what do we know now that he has a chance to win again? Because he's won once. They've torn down. They've rebuilt. Now he would have a chance to win again. I think if you think that he is the manager for the future and he's going to be the one that leads this rebuild into its next phase where you're going to start winning and competing again, then you stick with him. If not, like you said, you fire him after the year. But there's no reason to add more distraction to this team when guys are trying to build, they're trying to learn, they're trying to grow, they're trying to learn how to win together. There's no reason to disrupt all of that 15 games into the season, 20 games, 30 games, 40 games into the season. Just do it at the end of the year. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they should. But do it at the end of the year.
Yeah, I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make is I don't think that you can make the argument of we've got to see what David Bell is going to do, right? We got to see how it turns out. We've seen him. This is the 5th season, man. And yeah, it's a brand new roster. Yeah, he's building towards a brand new roster. They tore it down. But we've seen it. What he has with a playoff-worthy roster. And maybe 2021 was they overachieved a bit. 183 games. But they were still competing for a playoff spot and didn't get there. Fell apart. They made the postseason in the COVID year. Didn't score a run. Got swept. So I don't think that there's still something to learn from David Bell at all. I think I've seen enough, and I think I'm ready to move on. Once again, as a Cubs fan, not a Reds fan. But I think Reds fans are ready to move on. The last thing you want is to hold him around for a couple more years and continuously have these conversations because it grows stale. It's already grown stale. David Bell stinks. Wait a minute, David Bell's not bad. David Bell's got to have a winning team. I think you move on. And I don't think that's to condemn David Bell as a manager. I don't see it working moving forward if it hasn't worked yet. If we're still having these conversations in year 5, then moving forward, it's only going to get worse when they should be competing.
Yeah, and the other thing off of that, Reed, is that the last thing you want to happen is for the Reds to be good, for all of that talent to realize itself, and to get to a point where you're contending for a postseason spot and maybe a World Series.
Right.
And then the manager is the problem. Like, the manager should not be the issue here. The issue should be developing the talent, getting the talent to the major league level, and competing. Manager, in 2023, the manager is secondary, if not third, if not fourth on the priority list. The way that these teams are operated with the front office decisions and everything else, there is no reason that the manager should be a concern whenever this team becomes good.
I got a question for you both because it's a bit different. If you're looking at other other sports, like if a football coach gets fired, usually the replacement guy is someone that was on the staff previously. They don't go and hire some guy outside most of the time. The Colts last year are a special case. But with like the Reds, if you're saying that what you've seen from Bell is enough and that you probably aren't going to hire him past this season, what's the harm in is there any sort of, I guess, like structural change between one manager to the other when it's all more or less just game decisions is my question. Like,
right.
If you get someone from the outside, or will they hire from within if they were to do something like that? What would you expect if they were to fire David Bell midway through the season?
So baseball is different because typically when a person gets fired in the NBA, there is somebody else, circling the wagon, right? Like, still like, hey, let's go get this guy. Let's go get him right here. Football is the same way. Fire this coach. Let's go get this team's offensive coordinator. In baseball, there's 3 different routes you can go when you hire a manager. You can go the veteran route, someone who has coached before, managed before, and you want to give him a shot with your franchise. Maybe he's been successful. Maybe he, has been a journeyman, got a few other jobs. Bring him in. The second route is hiring somebody within your own organization. Bench coach is typically the first to come. Maybe it's the pitching coach. Maybe it's the hitting coach. It doesn't matter. You hire from within because you like what he brings to the team. You think it clicks with the team. It just seems like a right fit. And then the third option, which we've seen more and more teams do this, is get a young, recently retired ball player. You see the Cubs do this with David Ross. They hired him just mere years after he was on the World Series winning team. Gabe Kapler, David DeJesus, Alex Cora, all these young guys that are coming up, and you give them a shot. You say, hey, this is your time to shine. We want a young voice. And that's the real question that the Reds have to answer if they do go the route of David Bell or firing David Bell. And that is, do you want to get the veteran guy? Do you want to get the guy that's been around the block a time or two with these young guys that could teach them something, that has been around and has a tried and true formula, and he wants to prove it with your team? Or do you want to get the young guy and have him grow with your roster? Have him grow his managerial style. Have him grow, everything that it takes to be a big league guy. And have him grow with the guys that are also trying to be big league guys on the field. So that's the 2 routes to answer your question. And unlike football, where there's styles, there's not a whole lot of style, right, in baseball. I mean, you could go a more analytical route to where, you're using openers. You're using, you stick to the formula, stick to the math. Or you got more of a feel for things, as the old baseball guys have done. But I don't know what that is going to be the case for the Reds. I am, once again, on the plateau that the Reds should get rid of David Bell. And if you had me lean for the next guy, I would say get a young manager. Get a recently retired guy. And these guys come out of the woodworks, right? You don't know who it's going to be. Typically former catchers. At least that's been the old way of doing it. I don't want to see a former Red, be the manager. I know that was Barry Larkin was a popular choice for a while. Listen, Barry Larkin has nothing to prove for the Reds. That can only go south.
He would never do that.
Right. That was when Brian Price got the job, right?
Yeah.
That was a typical thing. And even when David Bell became the manager, once again Barry Larkin came rolling around. That helps nobody.
No.
That can only hurt his legacy here in Cincinnati. But personally, David Bell's gone. I want him to be I think you should want him to be gone. And I think they should go young to grow with the youth that you have coming up. All right, let's move on to the Reds themselves. And they lost another 1-run game last night. They are 1-4 in 1-run games this season. And you mentioned it, Paul. I believe you said that they have either been tied or they've been leading in every single one of those 1-run losses.
And all 6 losses, yep.
It's 1-5 or all 6 losses?
In all 6 losses, they have either been tied or had the lead at some point in the game.
Here's the thing about 1-run losses. I think we can agree on a couple things. The way that the Reds are competing at this early stage in the season is surprising. Most fans, most people around the game of baseball, against a tough team like the Braves, against the Phillies who won the National League last year, that they're competing against these teams. really like taking it down to the wire. But I don't think that you should take solace in that, because the Reds roster is not built to win. So over the course of 162 games, you play, I think on average, about a fourth to a third. 40 to 50 games are one-run games. They were under 500 in one-run games last year, and 44 different games. You have to win those games. There's only so many times that the Reds are going to put out their best foot forward, right? There's only so many times they're going to show up to the field and really compete with good teams. You've got to win them. And I know this season isn't going to be defined by wins or losses. I get it. But at the end of the year, the difference between a 70-win ball club, 75-win ball club, and a 58-win ball club are those one-run games. There's going to be so many times this year where the Reds never stood a chance. They lose 12-3. They lose 7-0. But when they bring it forward, when they are winning or when they are competing, you've got to win these close games. Because not only does it help look in retrospect and say, man, we really played well this year, or man, we played better than we expected, but it also builds in the clubhouse to say, we win these close games. These are our games. It's not a constantly going in the dugout like, man, we were so close, had a little bit of a rally there in the ninth inning, just didn't have enough. Or, man, we were leading through 7, the bullpen just blew it again. Instead, it's, all right, we're late in this ball game. We're going to come back. We win these games. Or we're winning at the 7th inning stretch. We win these games. Shut it down, bullpen. You build team camaraderie, you build an identity, and you become a favorable franchise when you win one-run games. Now, at what point, Casey, Paul, do you start looking at these one-run games and you stop taking solace in competing in them? And you think, we got to start winning these?
I mean, just from a sporting, like a professional, college, any team, philosophy is, they got to learn how to win. These are those moments that you got to learn how to win in order to become a good ball club, a good anything. You got to learn how to win them. So, to me, the season there will never be in my mind a point in this season where those one ball games where they lose will not sting just a little bit, because they still have not learned how to win those, in my opinion. That's where I would be coming from. I kind of get the perspective of you can't expect to win all of them, especially for this Reds ball club. But for me, it's very similar to like the Bengals when they got Joe Burrow in his rookie season. They had to learn how to win games. Mm-hmm. They had to learn how to win in multiple ways. The Reds have to do the same thing. They got to be competitive. They got to stay competitive. I know it's a huge mental task for them to do that, but you got to be in these situations as many times as possible, so then the next year you can take that step forward. So then you can be above 500 in those situations. So that's my opinion on the situation that we're in.
Yeah, I've already lost the leash on the moral victories, I guess you could say, because it's so clear that when they get themselves into this situation, the bullpen's going to let them down. So it's not like you can even put yourself in this spot and think, well, they've been close, they have a great bullpen, but the bullpen's blown it 2 or 3 times, and the other 2 or 3 times you just chalk it up to how baseball works. That's not the case here. They have a trash bullpen, which makes you think, all right, they can be as competitive as they want to be, and then you get to the back end of the game, and the game's over because you can't compete in it. So,
yeah, I'm looking at last year, and I know this isn't breaking new ground, but you look at last year, and I'm looking around the MLB, how they did in one-run games. Only one team made the postseason that had a losing record in one-run games. There was 2 different teams, the Giants being an exception there, that they were 81-81, and they had about 8 games under 500 in one-run games. You flip the script, they're in the postseason. They beat out the Padres for the wild card. You've got to win the game. It's like Paul made the joke on Off the Bench earlier.
The joke last year was, look what the boys did in Atlanta. You can't be sitting in July and being like, man, remember how well we played at the beginning of April? If we would have just won a couple more of those games. Got to start winning them. Moral victories don't mean anything at the major league level. When you play 162 games, moral victories mean this much.
Yep.
Just win the game. No one remembers how you did it at the end of the year. You just come back. Is there a tick in the win or is there a tick in the loss? Simple as that. If the Reds want to really start making waves in Major League Baseball, not this year, but next year, and start building something, you got to start winning these close games. So the next Reds topic is Joey Votto, and you guys touched on this a little bit in Off the Bench. How bad he has started this season at the minor league level. 36 plate appearances. Believe there was 34 at-bats. I'm going to get these stats up at the right time. But he has struck out in 20 at-bats out of 34. 20 times in 34 at-bats. Showing up the minors right now. This is his slash line. 125 batting average, 194 on-base percentage, 250 slugging percentage. 36 plate appearances, 32 at-bats, just 4 hits, one of them being an extra base hit. It was a double. So, I hate to say this, and maybe I'm jumping on the gun because it's only 34 at-bats. And Votto typically does start off slow. Are we concerned? Is it time for the future Hall of Famer to hang him up? Is it time that we just say, listen, Votto, we've got other young guys we got to see play. We got to see it through. We got to give these guys 400 at-bats. We can't be giving them to you anymore. Maybe talk about where else he can go. Put him on a team, see if any of these teams that think that they're playoff contenders here in April or May, and just go like, hey, you want to Joey Votto? We just can't play him. We've got to see too many guys. Are you concerned that he no longer bangs, as they say?
He's always started slow like this. I mean, the constant narrative around Joey Votto, if you look at his April numbers versus the rest of the season, has been that he hasn't gotten out of the gate very strong. You thought maybe he was correcting that when he homered on the first pitch down in Nashville in AAA this year. But he's also 38, 39, 40, 41. How old is he?
39.
39. So he's 39 years old. He's been around for a while. You have a lot of these guys that, like you said, Reed, need at-bats. But I'm still not ready to totally throw in the towel for some reason. I just look back at what he did 2 years ago, and I think to myself, maybe you can squeeze a little bit out of that. I don't know. It's a really tough decision because he very clearly still wants to keep playing. He wants to keep playing at a high level. And I don't want to doubt the guy. So I'm gonna leave him in there until at the major league level he's shown consistently over a big sample size, not just 36 at-bats, that he can't do it anymore.
Yeah, thank you for correcting me there. He had 2 extra base hits, a double, and a home run. You mentioned the home run that he had there. But I just don't know how you can justify giving Joey Votto 400 at-bats, 350 at-bats, I don't know, letting him play in 120 games this year when you've got so many guys you need to see through. You've got so many guys that could use the at-bats, and you're not competing for anything. It's just a service to a guy who's been in the franchise for over a decade. And I think, Paul, you sum up the feelings of most Reds fans to where it doesn't make sense playing him. It really doesn't. You can't wrap your mind. You can't bring up reasons on why he should be getting these starts when it is time for him to come up and start playing in the MLB again. But you feel just connected to him. You feel like, hey, he's been around for 15 years. We just got to keep playing him. You feel connected. He's been the face of the franchise.
Well, and the other frustrating thing, too, Reed, is that he's not going to be a part of whenever this team wins again. Because he's either going to retire after this year, he's going to get traded after this year to a team that is going to compete, or the Reds won't be at a World Series caliber competition level next year. So he's not in the picture for whenever the Reds want to compete for a World Series. a lot of these guys that are coming through the minor league system that might currently be in the major league on the major league team are part of that vision. So do you keep them on when you're potentially jeopardizing those opportunities? All those things you got to think about.
I'm looking in the chat, and there's a lot of people defending Joey right now, and they're making all valid points, right? He's coming off an injury. He's starting slow and all these things. But that's not the point. He just I don't know. I don't know. How can you play the guy? How can you throw him out there 100 games? Because he's a fan favorite? Does he sell a few more tickets? Give him a chance, man. Talk to him and say, listen, we've got guys we got to see through. We're gonna put your name on the chopping block, on the trading block. We're gonna say, see what comes back. And we'll get your opinion on all these potential trades. But we're building for something in the future here, and you just can't be a part of it. And I'm sorry, that's just the business of the game. And everyone's getting on me. But, man, you can't hold on to a guy when you need other people to play. You just can't. Spencer Steer, play him at first. I don't even know if he plays first. I know he plays third, but can he play first? Jason Fossler's looked great. You got other guys. Matt McClain. Get them at bats. Tyler Stevenson, maybe get him some maybes over at first base. I know he's going to be a DH catcher. I know they want him to catch. But so many guys could use those at bats over what we've seen from Joey Votto. Nick Kirby. I will clip this one out and put it on YouTube. All right, so that's the end of Joey Votto talk. Right when it starts getting spicy and start upheaving a lot of unpopular opinions. Jeff Okuda. He got traded to the Atlanta Falcons for a 5th-round pick. Now, Case, hindsight being 2020, as it always is, the man from Ohio State University, a former top 5 pick for the Detroit Lions, just got traded for a 5th-rounder.
Yeah.
You would have liked to see the Bengals kick the tires on that.
Yeah. I really would have liked to see them make an attempt, and I don't know if they made an attempt or not. I wasn't really privy to that knowledge, but I would have loved to have seen them make this trade regardless, because it was a 5th-round pick. He's your starting 3, number 3 corner. Former 1st-round pick, number 3 pick from Ohio State. Lots of people in our chat know of him. Had some injury history problems, so I can see why maybe you'd be a little hesitant. But he played on a really bad Detroit Lions defense team, and I mean he didn't really have a great chance, if you ask me, to showcase his true abilities. And I think in the system that Lou Anarumo has in Cincinnati would have done him a lot of favors. And the fact that he doesn't have to go up against number 1s like he did in Detroit would help him out tremendously. But it wasn't even just that it was the 5th-round pick, because a lot of people were pointing out to the contract. What is he worth? Well, he was due to earn $10 million in Detroit, but they couldn't trade him to the Falcons without having to pay for half of that. So the Bengals would have only had to pay $5 million for Jeff Okuda to be your number 3 guy. And then you have the option of a 5th year if he plays well. And then you don't have to worry about your cornerback problem. So I don't know. I would have just loved to have seen him in stripes, come back home to Ohio. And I'm not really a Ohio State guy, but I remember Jeff Okuda coming out of Ohio State. He was the real deal. And I haven't seen a ton. I've only looked at some of the stats and his injury history. But I just know that Detroit Lions team, when he first was drafted, was not good. It was abysmal. They didn't have any pass rush. He was left out on islands a lot, having to face number ones. And, the only thing that's the bugaboo is the injury history thing. But your third string guy, I'm willing to take that chance.
And the Bengals have been the land of reclamation projects, right?
Yeah.
Eli Apple.
I would agree with that.
Don Bell.
Yeah, I think Lou Anarumo is a whisperer, at least in terms of secondary play.
Whisperer.
He has been able to make Awuzie look like a number 1 corner, not just that, but a shutdown corner, a top 10 corner, top 5 corner sometimes. He's made Eli Apple look really good. Mike Hilton, he was already pretty good from Pittsburgh, but he looks really, really good in Cincinnati. I don't know, man. I just would have loved to have seen that opportunity. That takes away a need and a potential draft pick later on in this draft, and I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds on that, but you save yourself a second or third round pick, or your first round pick for that matter. But hindsight's, it is what it is. Bengals are still fine. Sidney Jones is okay, but I think Jeff Okuda would have been the steal for this Bengals team.
I think this is just one of those things where you can't beat up the Bengals for not getting on this, because I think this was probably a price that snuck up on the market, right? I mean, you look back after the trade's done and be like, oh, wow, I would have traded a 5th rounder for Jeff Okuda. Like, I would have done that. I think every team in the league probably would have done that. So it's just nothing that you can lament them on not kicking up the tires over to Detroit for getting him for that. But it's just one of those things where it's not like it slipped through the fingers of the Bengals, right?
We have no idea if they were even privy to that knowledge, right? So I agree with that. It's just a shame.
I love this chat. Nothing's better than this chat. All right, Paul. Let's talk shop here.
All right. I'm open to it.
What do I have to do to get you to play with me in the Hamilton City Championship?
So I did some soul searching on this last night. You pitched it to me yesterday at lunch.
Yeah.
Problem is that it's Father's Day weekend.
Yeah.
So I got to see what's going on in the Fritchner household.
Does your dad like golf?
He does. But he wouldn't play competitively.
I know, but what's the best Father's Day present you've ever given your dad?
It's a great question, Reed. I'd have to think about that.
And does it top winning a city championship for the Fritchner household on Father's Day?
No, it definitely wouldn't. I mean, whatever the best gift is could not top bringing a trophy home and putting it up on the mantle.
Yeah, it would say the Fritchners. Don't even put Paul on there. Just Fritchner.
Yeah.
Fritchner household, Hamilton City champions.
What kind of score do I need to shoot to win this thing?
Okay. So you typically play the first round at Potters. I forget if it alternates. So it's a 2-round tournament. You play at the 2 city courses here in Hamilton, Potters and Twin Run. I believe they typically play the first round at Potters and the second round at Twin Run, though it might alternate every year. You ready?
Okay.
For Potters, you got to go under par. Par is 69. You got to be shooting probably like a 67, 68. And then shooting right around a 72, right around par on the second day. Now, the guy who consistently wins this, we talk about Michael Phelps, we talk about Serena Williams, Tiger Woods, all the great individual champions of our lifetime. Kyle Hodges, here in Hamilton, has won it like 10 of the last 12 years. Xavier grad, former state champion. So that's who you're gunning for. You think you got that in you?
So here's my follow-up question to that. You said there were different flights.
Yes.
So what's it take to win one of the other flights?
That I do not know. So what typically happens is you play the first round, play with whoever you want to play with. So me and Paul can play this first round together.
Yeah.
And then after scoring, gets through. We wait around, and we hear what flight we're in. And then you get your tee time for the next day. There's the championship flight, which I don't know how many people are competing. My brother does this every year. And my brother Matt, every year, seems like he's got a shot going into the second day and just collapses. And it's become a running joke in my household. But there's a championship flight, the A flight, and the B flight. I think that you should gun to win that B flight. Just bad enough to be like leading the B flight, and I don't even know what that looks like. Maybe like a 82 on the first day, 12 over, 10 over, somewhere in that range. And then you go into the second day and be like, all right, let's gun this. I'm telling you to sandbag a little bit.
Let me tell you. If you need me to sandbag, I'll sandbag.
You're a sandbagging son of a gun.
I'll sandbag if you need me to.
I think this sounds like fun.
Look, I'm all in except for the Father's Day thing. Otherwise, I am all in.
Yeah, the thing is, though, if you're in the B flight, you'll play early on Sunday morning. Because the champion, it goes later in the day. Like, the winners go in the back. So if we're in the B flight, we're teeing off at 9 a.m. Get done. Still have a chance to grill out. And, gosh, I always forget your dad's name. It's the old car.
It's the old car. Selden.
What is it?
Selden.
For some reason, I think I want to always say like Seltzer or something like that.
It's close enough.
Selden.
Should be driving Seldens, not Fords.
Selden. That's why you hate Henry Ford.
That's right.
That's why. I imagine that Selden Fritzner makes a mean grill, makes some steak. See steak?
He loves getting out on that grill.
Pork chop.
Good pork chop.
Good
some
pork
chicken.
Chop. Selden Fritzner. All right.
Yeah.
All right, we've wasted enough time.
Baseball bets before we get out of here?
Yeah, most useless hour of
Rays.
Your day. You like the Rays again? You're riding the hot hand.
Rays.
The wagon.
Rays.
Casey, got any bets tonight?
I'm going to go with another Nerfy. I know we talked about the Nerfy.
You got on a Nerfy. Me and Casey, we hadn't been betting in a while. And we both hopped on the wagon. We got on the Betfred Sportsbook app, and we placed a Nerfy. He placed a Nerfy. I placed a run line. Both hit. I bet on the Rays last night. They had their ace. Had to go with them. What Nerfy you like today?
Braves versus the Reds.
No runs first in the
Wow.
Reds game?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are two good pitchers.
Both of them are currently perfect this season with Nerfy records. So I like Hunter Green starting off strong. I don't know about the rest of the time, but
can I bet on how many innings Hunter Green goes?
Smash under 4.
Take the under.
Whatever it is, take the under.
Take the under. Just hammer it. How many pitches in the first inning? Can you bet on that? 30 pitches. Take that. Spencer Strider. If you guys haven't seen Spencer Strider pitch before, his nickname is Quadzilla. There might not be a man wearing tighter pants in the entire world than Spencer Strider. Those things are painted.
Oh, No, somebody in the World Series like 2 years ago. Because they did the Will Ferrell. You ever seen that Will Ferrell skit?
No.
My type.
Was it a Brave?
No, it was a Dodger. Oh, I know who it was. It was not Walker Kessler. That's the college basketball. Walker Buehler.
Walker Buehler. He wore some tight pants. Yes, he did. Spencer Strider, Quadzilla. Boys quads are huge. Tonight, I'll look this up. I like the Cardinals money line. You're going to have to pay a little bit of juice on that. Going to have to pay a little juice. But the Cardinals have Jack Flaherty on the mound, who I like him to come back. They're playing on the road in Colorado. It's 170, so quite a bit of juice on that. I also like a little bit of a parlay. This is a heart parlay. Take the Cubs to win and the under 11 runs. Marcus Stroman's on the mound. He has yet to give up a run this season. So take that. That's about plus 2,680. 268. 268. So,
all right.
Wheel of Lunch, what we got?
It's currently blank. We need some suggestions.
Sonic. Throw Sonic on there.
Throw Sonic on there.
Okay.
I will make this clear. I got to go to a doctor's appointment today, but if it lands on Sonic, I will go to Sonic.
What time's your doctor's appointment?
I got to be there at like 2:15-ish, 2:30 maybe.
Okay. So it's got to be quick.
It's a ways. It's all the way across town. So
okay, so you got to go.
I got to. Well, I may not end up going to lunch. But if it's Sonic, I will go to Sonic.
McDonald's. Throw Wendy's on there. Let's get all the quick options.
Okay.
Back to Taco Bell. See if Taco Bell can make a comeback.
Yeah, we got quesadillas leaving Thursday, so you might as well throw it on there.
Taco Bell. Let's get one more. Quick option.
Subway?
Subway, sure.
Yeah, throw Subway on there. That's right there. Throw Subway on there.
Okay. We're happy with this. Let's roll.
Frauds. This is elimination. Oh
no.
Okay.
All right, see you, Subway. That was probably my least favorite up there.
Do we post a picture in the Discord or on Twitter? What happens whenever it inevitably does land on Sonic again?
Oh man, we got a real shot at. We got a real shot at Sonic today.
Uh-oh.
We're going to Wendy's. We're going to the Koopy
I hope
knockoff.
it's not Wendy's.
You hate the Wendy's.
I
on the
hate
east
this
side.
Wendy's. Oh no, we got a 50% shot at Sonic.
No.
Oh, this is a bad situation for Paul here.
This is a nightmare.
Because I'm either in a time crunch or all right, 50-50. Oh, it's Wendy's. It's Wendy's.
Oh well.
Oh.
Next time, Mouse Cop.
Next time, Mouse Cop, you got close.
You'll get closer. Mouse Cop, congratulations. I'll get another Muskie Hoosier. Drum Hunter fan club's got another year of life, and now we got another Muskie Hoosier. Guys, this has been Box Lunch. We're presented by Betfred Sportsbook. It's the best sportsbook in Cincinnati for all your baseball bets, all your NBA bets, whatever you got.
No, wait, hold on a second. We don't eliminate what it lands. We always go when there's two left. We always go to the one that it lands on.
Yeah, it's always the last one.
It's always the one that it lands on.
Always been the last one.
You can go back to every show. That's always been the rule.
Always been the rule.
Yeah.
You've been watching the show long enough. But
trying to pull a fast one on us.
Yeah.
Trying to guilt us.
Betfred Sportsbook presents Box Lunch. I'm Remouse. Paul Fritcher, Casey McAllister. See you guys on Friday.